is 800-489-0201. Promo code LIBERTY.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are high interest payments becoming too much to bear? Luckily, there's a way for consumers struggling with over $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans to significantly reduce the amount they owe if they qualify. Qualifying for this debt relief program, which the credit card companies prefer to keep secret, will only require you to pay back a fraction of what you owe with one affordable monthly payment. You don't have to file bankruptcy or need a debt consolidation loan. Consumers can now take advantage of this financial debt relief during the current economic downturn and rising inflation. If you owe $10,000 or even $500,000 in credit card debt or personal loans, call the Debt Relief Advocates Helpline now for this free information and to see if you qualify. Call 800-466-4131. 800-466-4131. Again, that's 800-466-4131.
Perhaps you're a collector. Or perhaps, all of a sudden, you have a collection. Maybe it's an inheritance. How do you know what it's worth? This is Sean Thompson for Donley Auction. The market for antiques and collectibles is changing all the time. What is your collection worth right now? Well, I've got an easy way to find out. It's simple. You contact Donley Auctions with their worldwide audience of live and in-person auctions. They have a good idea of how to tell you exactly what it's worth at exactly right now. They're ready to put top dollar in your pocket. The bigger the collection, the better. Go to DonleyAuctions.com and get the info on all things that they buy and sell to have an idea of exactly what Donley does and how much they need your collection. They have so many buyers, it's a great time to sell. Just simply make a phone call. Donley has traveled all over the country to pick up collections. Just call and talk to the people at Donley Auctions at 815-923-7000. Donley Auctions is your trusted partner in turning your collections into cash. DonleyAuctions.com.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
Hey Chicagoland, your trusted friend Jeff here from JeffBuysYourHouse.com. Over the past few months, I've shared how our veteran-led team serves Chicagoland homeowners. Today, I want to share with you what your neighbors are saying about working with us. Like Mary in Downers Grove, who wrote, "They listened to my concerns about moving from my home of 30 years and created a timeline that worked for me." Or Tom and Carol Stream, who said, "Their team helped me sort through 40 years of memories with respect and patience." This is why hundreds of your neighbors have given us a 5-star Google review and an A+ rating with the BBB. We don't just buy houses. We help people through life's transitions with understanding and care. No repairs needed, no cleanout required, and always on your timeline. Ready to work with the home buying team your neighbors trust? Sell your house to the trusted source by calling us at 630-895-9530. That's 630-895-9530 or jeffbuysyourhouse.com.
You need to be tuning into the Retirement Success Blueprint with Michael Stewart, the radio companion to the Amazon best-selling book, Success Blueprint, How to Build the Retirement You Deserve. Each week, Michael shares strategies designed to help reduce market risk through income-generating investments that can provide steady returns. Because if you can avoid a big loss, you don't need to take big risks. Catch the Retirement Success Blueprint with Michael Stewart, Saturday mornings at 10, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be very warm with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 86. Tonight stays mostly cloudy and warm with a few showers and a thunderstorm possible, especially later on. Expect a low of 66. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft. So the howling from the left over Jimmy Kimmel's suspension, indefinite suspension, or preemption in some cases with Sinclair in particular. That's what was communicated. Specific things he must do to regain consideration for having his show broadcast through the ABC affiliates they own. But the more important point is the howling from the left. They see this as an opportunity to cover their cancel culture tracks, don't they? They see this as a way to minimize their hypocrisy by pointing to those on the right's hypocrisy. And, they're not wrong if conservatives went down this path, not in terms of their hypocrisy. Of course they're hypocritical. Everything they do is in contradiction with who they say they are. But the opportunity here, as I discussed yesterday, is to present the contrast, not an echo, to clarify the waters, not muddy them. So you don't punish the left for their hypocrisy by perpetuating it, is the point. Donald Trump, on his way back from merry old England, had a little press gaggle on Air Force One. And, of course, the question of Jimmy Kimmel's future and also attendant, the FCC intervention when it comes to oversight of the licenses that they issue were pressed on the president. Here's what he had to say.
When Post is on network television, there is a licensing. I'll give you an example. I read someplace that the networks were 97% against me. I get 97% negative, and yet I won it easily. I won all 7 swing states, popular, I won everything. And if they're 97% against, they give me only bad publicity or press. I mean, they're getting a license. I would think maybe their license should be taken away. It will be up to Brendan Carr. I think Brendan Carr is outstanding. He's a patriot. He loves our country, and he's a tough guy. So we'll have to see.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line and text line. Is that the standard that you want the FCC apply with respect to the licenses they issue for broadcast television stations? The percentage of their content that is directed in one partisan direction or another. I mean, I'm 97% sounds pretty close to the number for me in terms of who late night talk show hosts pillory, who the news reports on negatively, the news stations with these affiliates. It sounds right. 97% of the time it's negative for President Trump. And I'm sure if you did some sort of analysis of the same for the other side during the Biden administration, the numbers would be 1 or 2 standard deviations better for that president and that party. There's no question. This is not exactly breaking news that the broadcast stations are left. They always have been. Have they got more pointedly left? Have they got more responsible? Have they got more censorious? Yes, because that's what the left tends to do. Those are always going to be the trend lines of the left because they're not interested in fair play. They're not interested in the norms of a representative republic or a free society. They're interested in political power. So they're going to leverage whatever power they have whenever they have it to those ends of accruing more power. While, again, masquerading as vanguards of democracy and so forth. We know this. The question is, what should the regulatory response be when conservatives have at least some political power, as they do here with this president, as well as control of the Congress? There is this standard. Yeah, Brendan Carr gave a wider-ranging interview on CNBC yesterday, which was very helpful, clarifying, and I think redounded largely to his benefit. And I know Trump is speaking off the cuff at a press gaggle on Air Force One after a long trip. He's probably a little drained having to spend that much time with Keir Starmer and King Charles. But he sort of is pointing to something that Brendan Carr really elucidates in his discussion, mainly with David Faber at CNBC, sort of the market reaction to the Trump presidency. In other words, lost in this conversation is the fact that Nexstar and Sinclair are not run by people that have necessarily the same political disposition as Disney or ABC News or the other broadcast networks. Certainly not the late night talk show hosts. And so they get to make decisions too, because they're the licensees. And so what Trump's presidency is allowing them to do is maybe make decisions they were reticent to make under the previous administration. And this is what Carr is talking about in particular when he distinguishes between broadcast mediums, broadcast outfits that are licensed by the FCC versus, for example, cable or internet media outlets or entertainment channels that are not. There's a distinction. And that license matters. And so the sort of public interest requirement that's attended to maintaining the license matters.
I think ever since President Trump won the election, it's created a permission structure for markets, including the media market, to rationalize. And again, if you look at the ratings for late night television, they've been in an absolute nosedive for years. But for some reason, these companies felt like they had to continue to subsidize it. And I think that's ending. And again, I think your viewers get this, but think about the business side of this. You have the national programmers, Disney, that create this content, and you've got individualized licensed TV stations all across the country. And they're required, they've been for years, required to respond to the needs of their local communities and viewers. And I think it was those local communities and viewers that were saying, we don't like this stuff anymore. And so Nexstar was the first mover here. Said we're going to preempt this program, we're going to black it out. Again, that's what you're supposed to do, a healthy, functioning market. So I think, again, people sort of focus on narrow specifics, but there's a much bigger shift that's taking place right now in the media ecosystem. And frankly, I think that's a good thing.
So what he's talking about essentially is empowering the network, those that have these network affiliates, these media groups like Sinclair and Nexstar that have network affiliates, to provide more pushback and exercise more power within the marketplace vis-a-vis the content providers like Disney, like ABC Disney. It's interesting. So the landscape within this market is changing, and there is some power shifting going on that has nothing to do with the FCC, but something that, as FCC chairman, Brendan Carr is happy to see. More competitive environment, and there are different viewpoints that are being expressed. And that will necessarily include expressed in the form of the content that they will choose to air on the affiliates that they own, the affiliates that are licensed to pump content through. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. In the interview that Brendan Carr gave on CNBC, he was asked, one question from crazy Jim Cramer. Of course he was. But and it was ham-handed the way that Cramer did it because he's Jim Cramer. But I'm glad the question was asked, and I'm glad with the response that Brendan Carr gave because it provides additional clarity.
Should the government have someone who reviews the writers before the host says something?
No.
How would you be sure that the host is saying something that you would think is okay?
That's not up to me. The way this works is that the local broadcast station is supposed to be responsible for the content. So the check on that content is not the government. It's not me here at the FCC. It's your local TV station in Provo, Utah. It's your local TV station in Scranton. It's on them under the law. They're responsible for the content. They're responsible for judging whether they think it's in the public interest or serves the needs of their local communities. Not for me to decide, but I'm very pleased that they feel empowered to stand up to Disney and Comcast in the appropriate cases.
So this is not prior restraint by the state. That's not what Brendan Carr is suggesting, nor does he advocate? Very clearly there. This is private action with respect to the content that FCC licensees choose to pipe through their channels. That's a different thing. That's an important distinction that he made there. All right, we'll take your calls on this and fold in some more of the reaction, including from Jimmy Kimmel's late night colleagues at 5:38. Now it's time to check the headlines.
Good morning, 71 degrees in Chicago and AM 560 The Answer. I'm John Cruz in for Nikki Whaley in the Discover Card newsroom. Sunny today, 82, showers tonight. On an 8-3 vote, a CDC vaccine advisory panel recommending a combination measles, mumps, rubella, and chickenpox vaccine be split up into 2 shots not given before the age of 4. Now, this panel, handpicked by Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., members today will issue a recommendation on the hepatitis B vaccine. A 9-year-old boy is dead after being hit and killed by a car on Chicago's west side. It happened Thursday morning outside McNair Elementary School on the 4800 block of West Walton Street. The driver taken into custody. Charges are pending. And police warning residents living near O'Hare about a series of recent car break-ins. Most of the targeted vehicles were pickup trucks and hotel parking lots. A group of at least 4 people broke the rear passenger windows. The break-ins reported in Rosemont, Des Plaines, Norridge, and Park Ridge. This report sponsored by Discover. Guess what? Discover's accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. You heard right, 99%. If you don't think so, maybe it's time to face the facts. You're stuck in the past. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard. A check of weather coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Your home is a valuable asset, and you want to take care of your home. From roofs, siding, windows, and doors to furnaces, flooring, landscaping, and much more. Listen to your go-to for all things home. It's Home Answers Radio every Sunday morning at 9. Presented by Lang Home Medical Equipment, Valdecast Windows and Doors, and by JeffBuysYourHouse.com. Get answers from industry experts so you can make informed decisions about your home improvement. Right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Tony Dreyfus, founder and president of Metropolis Coffee Company and a proud new customer of Signature Bank. We're a 19-year-old specialty coffee roaster located in the heart of Chicago. Some of your favorite restaurants and cafes serve our coffee. As a small business manufacturer, we understand the importance of working with the right bank, and that's why we made the move to Signature Bank. We were tired of the impersonal service that our large bank had provided. A friend referred us to Signature Bank, and their team was on site to understand our operations firsthand. They provided us the working capital to continue our successful business operations and to fuel our ambitions for innovation and growth. We now have the flexibility to grow at our own pace. That personal touch, you can't find that at a large bank, but we found it at Signature, and we can't thank them enough.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
This is Albert Mohler for townhall.com. We have to talk about the trans issue, and most recently, the young man arrested for the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Utah's Governor Cox made clear in his statement the alleged killer's roommate, quote, was a romantic partner, a male transitioning to female, end quote. It was immediately clear that mainstream media wanted to stay as far away from that part of the story as possible. That's exactly what happened with the shooter who killed and injured children at Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis. It happened in the horrifying 2023 mass shooting at the Covenant School in Nashville. It is insanity to argue that the transgender identity has nothing to do with these crimes. The pattern is now undeniable. It would be false to accuse all transgender persons of being tempted towards any such crime. It's foolish to say, pattern? What pattern? I don't see a pattern. Problem? What problem? I don't see a problem. Let's be honest. We have to talk about this. I'm Albert Mohler.
Are you looking to hire? ZipRecruiter finds the best candidate for your job fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be very warm with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 86. Tonight stays mostly cloudy and warm with a chance of a few showers and a thunderstorm, mainly later on. Expect a low of 66. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, talking about the left's histrionics in reaction to the decision made by corporate entities, not by the government, but by corporate entities, to suspend Jimmy Kimmel and his program. Now, that doesn't mean I like what Brendan Carr did on that podcast that seemed to indicate that the licensees, FCC licensees, needed to do something about the Jimmy Kimmel show. Otherwise, there was an interest in potentially taking regulatory action by the FCC. I know there's competing stories about this, and it was Jimmy Kimmel wouldn't apologize and wanted to come on Wednesday night and defend his comments from Monday and Tuesday. There's a story from the Hollywood Reporter. Disney CEO Bob Iger and co-chair Dana Walden made the decision to suspend Kimmel's show after he planned to double down and go on camera to defend his lie that MAGA voters killed Charlie Kirk rather than quote-unquote kowtow to the outrage. Hollywood Reporter reports they yanked him because they thought he would fan the flames as Sinclair and Sinclair and Nexstar affiliates dropped him. The advertiser calls began to roll in, and then the big affiliate conglomerates, Nexstar and Sinclair, threatened to preempt his show. The argument here is a market reaction not tied to the comments that were made by Brendan Carr. Well, it's hard to say because the comments made by Jimmy Kimmel were made on Monday and Tuesday nights on his shows on those nights. And action wasn't taken until after Brendan Carr made the remarks he made that we discussed yesterday. So it's difficult to unpack. There could be contributing factors. Both could be contributing factors in the decision. There's the additional question about whether or not these affiliates were looking to dump Jimmy Kimmel at some point in the near term anyway because of profitability reasons. And there's debate about that too. When you include all of the revenue the show generated from YouTube monetization and other such revenue streams, maybe it made money, maybe it lost money. That argument goes back and forth. But the problem is that it's a bit muddled. It's a bit of a muddled picture because of what Brendan Carr said, which is why, as we were discussing before the news, his more extensive interview on CNBC yesterday, laying out the philosophical approach to FCC regulation, was so much more helpful, including drawing lines of distinction between licensees and other media, other broadcasters, so as to, frankly, provide some proportionality to this hysteria the left is trying to generate about the end of free speech in America. Here's Brendan Carr on that distinction I just mentioned. FCC licensees versus those not under the regulatory umbrella of FCC.
But I don't think anybody's going to try and defend what Kimmel said, and I certainly defer to the decision-making of the company itself in terms of saying this was beyond the bounds. But I do wonder, and I think many people do, whether you really are just targeting comedians who typically through the years have made fun of political figures in a way that because the president simply is offended by it.
No. Look, again, broadcast TV is different. We're on a cable show right now. You don't have an FCC license. You don't have an obligation to serve the public interest. Podcasts don't either. Stand-up comedians, whether they're on lots of forms of communications, don't. And Kimmel is free to do that. But if you have a broadcast TV license, that means that you have something that very few people have. And you're excluding other people from having access to that valuable public resource. And it comes with an obligation to serve the public interest. And again, over the years, there's been a rule in place at the FCC that local TV stations get to preempt programming that they don't think meets the needs of their communities. But recently, these national programmers, ABC, Disney, Comcast, NBC, they've been exercising outsized control and power over those local TV stations, and there's been no pushback. And this is a very significant moment because local broadcasters are now pushing back on national programmers for the first time that I can think of in modern history. And that's one of the things we want at the FCC. We want to empower local broadcasters that have the public interest obligation to push back on national programmers so that people have more choice.
So, as I said before the news, I mean, and the point that he repeated several times in that interview Brendan Carr did, is that you see a rebalancing going on in the market, the redistribution of power between the content providers and the network affiliates. And he thinks that's a good thing for the environment in which FCC licensees operate. And of course, Salem is an FCC licensee on the radio side. And he's absolutely right that we have community standards or public interest restraints that internet outlets, non-FCC licensed outlets do not have. Cable news, too. I mean, we can't say the George Carlin seven dirty words on this program. Part of why we have a 7-second delay in case somebody slips up. So, I mean, there are those lines. I mean, we've seen the battles before that have nothing to do with Trump between radio hosts like Howard Stern and the FCC, Mancow and the FCC. So, I mean, let's not pretend that FCC licensees have never been under regulation or even the suggestion of regulation until this week. That's silly. It's not true. Again, that doesn't mean that we don't have some clawing back to do because of the timing of Brendan Carr's comments and the decisions that it came down almost immediately after his comments. And there's all sorts of, as I said, variables in this equation. It's including the business interests, not just in terms of the profitability of Jimmy Kimmel's show, but you have Nexstar looking to do a $6 billion acquisition of Tegna, which is another owner of network affiliate stations, and that requires FCC approval. So naturally, they want to be seen as friendly to administration perspectives on the marketplace of media. Additionally, as I mentioned, and this is important too, it's been underreported, is my sense of the leadership of Sinclair and Nexstar is they have very different attitudes about the marketplace of ideas, about the quality of the content and accuracy of said content in the event it's presented as news or information you can use from a civic perspective. Very different perspectives than the dominant legacy media on broadcast. And that matters too. They get to make corporate decisions too. They're big boys and girls, and they have big jobs, and they make a lot of money, and they've spent a lot of money to get these licenses and acquire these stations. They get to make decisions about the content too. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Bob in Buffalo Grove, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning, Dan. Always good talking to you, getting educated on the topics. You touched on the following, but let me offer the profitability, the ratings of the left wing and the biased programming being offered today. Did you see the major decline in Kimmel's ratings? It also coincided with Trump's first presidency. Just wondering how he was kept on the air and why with the major decline in his ratings. Nobody's talking about that.
Well, that was addressed. Thanks for the call, Bob. Yeah, people have talked about that. I mean, because, decline in ratings, decline in ad revenue, decline in profitability for the show. So that's part of what we have been talking about in terms of a factor. And maybe this was an opportunity for Nexstar and Sinclair to do something they wanted to do anyway, although that is in dispute. And I haven't seen the books on the Kimmel show, so I don't know. But clearly the ratings have declined, and that means ad revenue has declined. But there's other ways to monetize their content, as I mentioned, social media, and they apparently did that to a certain extent. And you can make money as a show, even if you're appealing to an insular audience. I mean, it's certainly possible. I mean, Brendan Carr sort of suggested that in his exchange with David Faber over at CNBC. But, Faber pushed back and said, we talked to them, and ABC said that Kimmel show was slightly profitable. There was the report that Colbert show was losing $50 million a year, and the stations were subsidizing it, and he was performing better than all the other late night shows, so they had to be in similar straits, but not necessarily. I mean, depending on what your overhead is, and it's not just the salary of the host. So, as I said, it's a complicated picture, but it's a complicated picture that we should be focused on strictly from a business perspective and a cultural perspective, and not from a governmental one. And the initial statements by Brendan Carr complicated the matter. Juan, Southside, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, what's up, Dan? Thank you for having me on. Love the show.
Thank you.
I appreciate you explaining what the FCC's actual obligations are to the public, because my only understanding was from a movie back in the day called Pump Up the Volume with Christian Slater. So yeah. I really appreciate the education on that. The only thing I had to say was talk hard. That's from the movie. But a government overreach, in my opinion, is government overreach. We can't have our feelings get all hurt because they said something inappropriate that we maybe hurt somebody's feelings or whatever. Because if we're okay with them doing this, then we're okay with them doing that to us. And too much government, regardless of blue or red, in my opinion. But I think that the companies preempted it just because the money. I mean, you got to follow the money in any scenario. And if the MAGA America boycott hurt every company that tries to come against us. So I feel like that was the preemptive move. That was what motivated it. But that's just my uneducated, humble opinion.
Yeah, thanks for the call. I mean, it's certainly part of the analysis. There's no question. But yeah, I mean, what's the line from the "Be So"? What's his song? "Be So." Anyway, I can't remember the name of the song, but the line is, "The FCC won't let me be or let me be me, so let me see." I mean, the Eminem songs that where he ran afoul of and was not getting heavy rotation on radio stations, music stations, and sang about it. Be so without me. Greg Schomburg.
Morning, Dan. Keep in mind, it's Open Line Friday, okay? I totally agree with you about keeping the government out of it. But what about this idea? Rush always had the independent firm that monitored the accuracy of his show, and he was always like 99% accurate. He corrected things when he was shown to be wrong instantly. And therefore, what about the FCC coming up with some kind of independent firm which has to broadcast the equivalent of a cigarette pack warning at the beginning of a show, saying that the show has been shown to be accurate on, relative matters a certain percentage of the time? I think that might be, and again, sort of facetiously, but there's some merit to this because Rush did it, some kind of a break on irresponsibility that is going on, which, as I alluded to yesterday, creates that hypnotic effect within our society, which causes everything to go crazy as it is now. Thanks.
Thanks for the call, Greg. I don't want, the FCC setting up some sort of independent fact checker. I mean, even Brendan, that this goes back to these sort of obvious questions, but I'm going to restate them anyway because I think they're maybe less obvious to some. Brendan Carr keeps talking about the public interest, and he suggested that those who are running a quote narrow partisan circus unquote, or engaging in a pattern of news distortion, quote unquote, could be subject to regulatory consequences under the public interest provision of their license. Okay, so what's narrow? Narrow partisan circus. Let's blame it. Let's break it down. What's narrow? What's partisan? I mean, this is not what is a woman. What does the government define as narrow? What is wide enough? What is a distortion? I mean, in terms of how big or how big does a distortion have to be, or how many distortions do you have to commit until you trigger some sort of fine or regulatory response? You really want to bring the government in to get into the weeds with the content that is produced and distributed by these media channels? I don't. Jim, Southside.
Hello, how you doing? I'm a retired Chicago police sergeant, and I think it's a matter of manners and respect. Forget about the government, forget about the corporate interests. It's like you're dealing with the death of an individual. Me as a Chicago police officer, there's been times where every weekend people got shot and killed, and you know what? It would be very disrespectful for me to say, "Oh, I think that's a great thing." I think it's a terrible thing. The death of anybody is sad, and I think that we've lost our moral code, regardless of whether it's in broadcasting, whether it's in internet or whatever. And I think that this has to be brought back to light again. And hey, let's get back to some standards here. Dealing with the death of an individual, loss of family, grieving, and everything else. And Kimmel, to say what he said, was just totally out of place. And he knew it was out of place. And I don't think Jimmy Kimmel's death gone on any crime scenes where people have been shot and see the agony and the grief of people that are laying there, and the agony of the people, their family members. It's like he's so disconnected. He deserves to be off the air. The heck with him. I think he's so disconnected, like half of Hollywood, that they don't really know what's going on. They just take an agenda, and they think that's going to give them their self-worth. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks for the call, Jim. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't disagree with any of that. And it would have been great to see Nexstar and Sinclair make that move without any commentary from any government commissar. It would have been so much more powerful for them to make, this is a corporate decision. This is a private business decision, because we are not going to support people that treat the founding principles of a free society so cavalierly, treat the unbelievable opportunity they have to be on broadcast television so recklessly. That's just not, we're just not going to support people in our employ like that. And so we're making this decision. And then you can argue all you want about Nexstar and Sinclair's management decisions, instead of having to have this conversation to provide clarity as to the two sides' positions when it comes to free speech and quote-unquote cancel culture. Right? I mean, somebody as ill-informed and as classless as Jimmy Kimmel, who celebrates the fact that he is a man of the left, proud man of the left. It's like Brandon Johnson. It's like Jasmine Crockett. It's like J.B. Pritzker. It's like AOC. It's like Ayanna Pressley. The rest of the late night talk show hosts keep talking. I never want them to stop talking. Never want them to stop talking, because they do so much of the work for us in terms of sharpening rather than dulling the contrast. They're so unself-aware as to how this is received. They're aiding their own demise, professionally, I mean. Well, that's what we want. You do all the work for us. Oh, and by the way, it also generates the response from the decent, and those do have class and who do have respect for other people. And also, not exclusively, but are largely conservatives. And that sharpens the contrast. Free speech does all the work for us. All we have to do is present, as I said yesterday, who they say they are versus who they are, and who they say we are versus who we actually are. If we can do that, we win, because we're on the side of civilization. living in a free, civilized society. And they are sentimental barbarians. And if we don't do a good job of presenting it, then, well, their side gets the benefit. But more importantly, I mean, if we can't win on those essentially two referenda questions, who they say they are versus who they actually are, who they say we are versus who we actually are, if we can't win that Leesburg grid presentation, well, then society is lost anyway. But I think we can. And I think that's where we should focus. Rob on the Pennsylvania Turnpike.
Hey, Dan, good morning. The only business model that I know that works where you insult your customers and you make money is Ed DeBevick.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for the call. But yeah, the difference, of course, right, is the customers are in on it, and so that makes it a little bit different than these late night talkers. Matt, South Bend.
Yeah, good morning. I was going to mention back in the day when Saturday Night Live first came out, living in South Bend, the local NBC station was WNDU, which is Notre Dame University, and they restricted Saturday Night Live. So, I mean, by their choice, they said it was too controversial. So, obviously, for that, nothing new. I mean, with all the fanfare that Saturday Night Live came to finally and has stayed on, but this is just Kimmel finding out that he's not funny. I don't see anything that he can do about it. So appreciate you taking my call.
Thanks for the call, Matt. Yeah, he's not funny. That his employers have some say in his show, and that maybe I don't know. Maybe he violated the terms of his contract, like some moral turpitude clause. I don't know. But regardless, that some employers have some say in his show. Yeah. Contractual employee. Corporate decision. Which is exactly what Kim Strasser wrote. I mean, in a piece I don't completely agree with, but she succinctly said it quite nicely. The First Amendment restricts government action against free speech, not corporate firings. Yes, correct. Dave in Crystal Lake.
Yeah, good morning, Dan. Thanks for taking the call. Trump is the master of his class, and he just loves to get those progressives all up in a tizzy. And I don't care what he says, it's what he does. And until the left figures that part out, they're going to be lost.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, Dan Proft here. Data shows that boys make up more than 1/3 of those exploited in the sex trade. However, there are virtually no services available to male victims and survivors of trafficking and exploitation. They are often overlooked, ignored, and left without support. For 35 years, Emmaus has been on the front lines of an issue most of us can hardly imagine, helping men and boys in Chicago escape the nightmare of human trafficking and rebuild their lives. On Friday, November 1st, you're invited to attend an unforgettable evening at the Emmaus 35th Anniversary Gala at Fisherman's Inn in Elburn, Illinois. Together, they'll celebrate faith, freedom, and restoration with a beautifully catered dinner, an inspiring program, and a silent auction, all to support the mission of rescuing and restoring survivors. This is your chance to do something that truly matters. Reserve your seat today, or if you can't attend, make a life-changing donation at streets.org. That's streets.org. Emmaus is restoring lives. Let's help them keep going. Visit streets.org.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up at 6:06, we've been talking from a policy and philosophical posture with respect to Kimmel and all this free speech stuff. Let's have a little fun, too. And also hear from some on the left who have had some redeeming things to say. That's at 6:06. That's now 6 a.m. AM 560 WIND.
Honoring Charlie Kirk while naming a new leader, CJ Papa, Fox News. The widow of Charlie Kirk is the new CEO for Turning Point USA. The decision to name Erica Kirk is what the slain leader wanted. In the event of his death, said the conservative organization on X. Fox's Claudia Cowan has more.
Communities are preparing a weekend of services to honor Kirk's legacy and preserve his memory, starting with the campus where this tragedy unfolded last week. Utah Valley University will host a vigil for unity to allow students, staff, and members of the community to come together in remembrance and healing. The university president says many have approached her about wanting to remember Kirk at the place where he died in a permanent way. Also in Glendale, Arizona, the president and vice president are among those scheduled to speak at Charlie Kirk's big public memorial service on Sunday.
That's Fox's Claudia Cowan, but not everyone is mourning the 31-year-old's death. President Trump on Fox The Story was asked about a protester arrested at a memorial in Arizona.
This maniac runs through the flowers, kicking them all down and stepping and stomping on them. Unfortunately, somebody grabbed him and gave him a rap, but the guy looks like a normal guy, and who would do that?
He disappeared at the start of June in Washington State after police accused him of kidnapping and killing his 3 young girls.
Authorities in Washington State believe they found the remains of Travis Decker. The Chelan County Sheriff's Office says human remains were discovered Thursday night in a remote wooded area near Leavenworth. Speaking of Fox 13 Seattle, Chelan County Sheriff Mike Morrison says police are still waiting to confirm the identity of the remains, but
we do feel pretty confident that there's a high probability this is him, just based off the clothing, some of the personal items that we found on scene.
Decker's daughters, age 5, 8, and 9, were found suffocated in June. Decker had been on the run for 3 months. Ted Lindner, Fox News.
America is listening to Fox News.
Good morning, 71 degrees in Chicago and AM 560 The Answer. I'm John Cruz in for Nikki Whaley in the Discover Card newsroom. Sunny today, 82, showers tonight. On an 8-3 vote, a CDC vaccine advisory panel recommending a combination measles, mumps, rubella, and chickenpox vaccine be split up into 2 shots not given before the age of 4. Now, this panel, handpicked by Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., members today will issue a recommendation on the hepatitis B vaccine. A 9-year-old boy is dead after being hit and killed by a car on Chicago's west side. It happened Thursday morning outside McNair Elementary School on the 4800 block of West Walton Street. The driver taken into custody. Charges are pending. And police warning residents living near O'Hare about a series of recent car break-ins. Most of the targeted vehicles were pickup trucks and hotel parking lots. A group of at least 4 people broke the rear passenger windows. The break-ins reported in Rosemont, Des Plaines, Norridge, and Park Ridge. This report sponsored by Discover. Guess what? Discover's accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. You heard right, 99%. If you don't think so, maybe it's time to face the facts. You're stuck in the past. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report. Learn more at discover.com/credit card. A check of weather coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
WIND, Chicago. If you listen to the mainstream media and the Democrats, you'd think it was a sin to be black and conservative. Well, John Anthony blows up that perception every week on Black and Right. Join John tomorrow afternoon at 4 when he pushes back against the left and its regressive, progressive agenda that tries to dictate how people should think or feel about politics. Listen to Black and Right tomorrow afternoon at 4, right here on AM 560, The Answer. Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
Want to see if you could pay less in taxes? Try the quick and easy tax calculator at willsave.com. Yes, a free tax calculator. That's WILSAVE.com. Calculate how you could keep more of your hard-earned money and give less to Uncle Sam, especially in retirement. Get your free tax analysis today at willsave.com. And don't forget to tune in to Protecting Your Assets with Steve Shyman every Saturday morning at 8, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
You're great at protecting your data, but lots of places could still expose you to identity theft. If that happens, LifeLock gives you the U.S.-based restoration agent who will stick by your side from start to finish. Phone calls, filing documentation, preparing insurance claims. Your agent handles it all. In fact, they're so confident restoration is guaranteed or your money back. It's nice to have an expert like that on your side. Save up to 40% off your first year with promo code Beck at LifeLock.com. That's LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. We're dedicated to serving people 50 and up, like me. Our needs are different. Big Wireless wants us in an unlimited plan, but if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used. At Consumer Cellular, we're focused on affordable, reliable plans, including data that suits your needs, not ours. Our plans start at just $20, and you'll get the best customer service in the business.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Aid for Women is hosting their annual dinner on Thursday, September 25th, and you're invited. We're gathering at the beautiful Union League Club downtown. That's 65 West Jackson Boulevard for what's always a really special night. This year's speaker is Dr. Robert Royal, who founded the Faith and Reason Institute in Washington. He has some fascinating insights on faith, culture, and the issues we're all talking about. Here's how the evening unfolds. At 5 o'clock, you can meet Dr. Robert Lawler, our medical director, an amazing person with some amazing stories. Then we'll have drinks and good conversation at 5:30, followed by dinner and the program at 6:30. It's really about supporting women in our community. Getting tickets is easy. Just go to helpaidforwomen.org. That's helpaidforwomen.org. You can grab dinner tickets, try your luck with drawing tickets, or if you're feeling generous, check out the sponsorship options. September 25th, Aid for Women's annual dinner. Hope to see you there. Visit helpaidforwomen.org to join us.
Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
Watching traffic slowly building in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center this morning. The Edens inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose should take you about 15 minutes, no delays there. And on the Edens outbound from Montrose to Lake Cook, about a 14-minute drive. Watch for traffic building on the Kennedy inbound between Irving Park and Diversey Avenue. About a 5-minute backup if you're outbound in the Ike between Des Plaines and First Avenue. Brake lights are coming alive on the Stevenson inbound between Pulaski and Kedzie Avenue. We're also watching slow traffic due to an accident on the left shoulder of the Tri-State northbound right at the exit at Jane Addams Tollway. That's been moved off the scene. The Dan Ryan looking good, no major delays there, and only slight backups on I-55 between Joliet Road and Veterans Memorial Tollway. Traffic is a service of Team Hochberg. They've helped thousands of AM 560 listeners with the best rates and service. Let Team Hochberg help you by visiting 56david.com or call 855-563-2843. That's 56david.com. Lower.com equal housing lender. NMLS 1124061. I'm John Cruz. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now check out your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be very warm with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 86. Tonight stays mostly cloudy and warm with a few showers and a thunderstorm possible, especially later on. Expect a low of 66. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. We've been talking about the fallout from Jimmy Kimmel's indefinite suspension and the rallying around the false flag that the left is doing, cloaking themselves as the great defenders of free speech and free thinking and a free society, even as they, of course, have the ignominious record of pushing cancel culture. And by the way, they still do. They still do. That's who they are. But this gives them an opportunity, as I've been saying, to confuse, as well as actually to gaslight people into actually believing they are these people that they say they are, these great protectors of people's free speech rights and proponents of open dialogue and a sharing of ideas on college campuses and everywhere else. Yeah, sure they are. You know, all the people that you're hearing from now were silent when people who were questioning COVID policies, suggesting that burning down American cities is not necessarily the best way to advance the cause of criminal justice reform. When people who were saying those sorts of things, pushing back against violence as a means to political ends, pushing back against government mandates based on dubious, if not outright junk science, or the complete lack thereof, when those people were being silenced, they said nothing. And they watched, even as the Biden administration was exposed, thanks to the Twitter files reporting, after Musk acquired Twitter, watched and said, I mean, very little. There's a few people that really turned as a result of the manifest weight of the evidence. Matt Taibbi, Michael Schellenberger, they sort of were still wavering a little bit left, in terms of consideration for the left. And I think that really flipped them permanently. But anyway, most everyone else, despite the fact it was obvious from the communications that Biden administration was using third-party cutouts, meaning social media companies, to do on their platforms what the government couldn't do directly, do it indirectly. The censorship industrial complex that Michael Benz has detailed in such spectacular fashion that we've talked about for years, had nothing to say about that. And now they're here to make Jimmy Kimmel their cause celeb and brandish their credentials as free speech purists. But I tell you, it's fun to hear from some of the old war horses. Concurrent to this controversy is the Atlantic's Festival. You know, the Atlantic, Steve Jobs' widow's outlet, hosting a little confab of leftists, including David Letterman. And yeah, he still has that Jeremiah Johnson beard. Rest in peace, Robert Redford.
I feel bad about this because we all see where this is going, correct? It's managed media, and it's no good. It's silly. It's ridiculous. And you can't go around firing somebody because you're fearful or trying to suck up to an authoritarian criminal administration in the Oval Office. That's just not how this works.
And the other thing that Brendan Carr and the FCC gave all of these leftists the opportunity to do is just refer to Trump as a dictator, an autocrat, and a criminal, like you heard from David Letterman. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. You know, it's fun to do a little bit of comparison and contrast to sharpen those contrasts I mentioned before. So this was Hillary Clinton last year on either Chris Hayes or Rachel Maddow's program. I can never distinguish the two. Hayes Maddow, let's call it, on MSNBC. Hillary Clinton on what to do about what she decides is misinformation.
Boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence. Because
so for those hand-wringing over Trump saying that, you know, Kimmel should be fired mainly because he's no talent. That's just a personal preference, which he's entitled to. But even talking about sort of the 97%, as you heard him on Air Force One, we played earlier in the program, 97% of the content is from the left, is critical of Trump, and that's, you know, basically suggesting something along the lines of Brendan Carr did, which is that is not consistent with the public interest provision in these licenses, and so maybe they should be pulled. Of course, as somebody said at the end of last hour, let's watch what he does versus what he says. It's always the pointed rhetoric to generate the response, and then rarely does he follow through, at least follow through in the sense of crossing a line of constitutionality, crossing a line of disintegrating institutions the way the left has. Institutions, by the way, they dominate. But there's Hillary Clinton openly and notoriously calling for the criminalization of speech that she would define, or some, panel of mystics would define as misinformation on MSNBC a year ago, and that went by without much notice, except, on this show and a few others. And the other argument that's being made, Jimmy Kimmel is just a comedian. And this is particularly chilling. CNN's Magic Cue Ball, Brian Stelter, took up that talking point.
America is a less free place if late night comedians cannot do and say what they want. Of course, they can be tuned out. People can change the channel. That's how we vote. That's how we have our say in America. But this really does have a chilling effect across the American media. And it's not just me saying it. We've heard from the group FIRE in the past few minutes, the free speech group FIRE, saying, quote, the government pressured ABC and ABC caved. Quote, we cannot be a country where late night talk show hosts serve at the pleasure of the president, but until institutions grow a backbone and learn to resist government pressure, that is the country we are.
Yeah, well, we're a long way from late night talk show hosts serving at the pleasure of the president. This is the hyperbole that they're want to offer. But Brian Stelter, just a little bit of Brian Stelter versus Brian Stelter. The effort to target Fox News. Fox News is inciting violence. We played that clip from AOC. This was the posture of the left in the Biden administration. Do we recall this? That there were questions raised about whether Fox News should maintain its FCC license because they were inciting violence, because they were promoting and promulgating hate. Brian Stelter, during that period of time, said those efforts to threaten Fox News's FCC license wasn't censorship, it was harm reduction. Yeah, the Orwellian, not just the Orwellian reversals, but the Orwellian speak. That's that. When we call for a license to be pulled, it's always harm reduction. It's never censorship. Right. No, I know. Of course. And so back to the point, too, of a comedian, a late night comedian. It's interesting. Jimmy Kimmel didn't consider himself a comedian. Not all the time. He's a serious person who should be taken seriously. And so when Aaron Rodgers intimated something about Jimmy Kimmel and the Epstein files, Jimmy Kimmel had this to say. Take a listen to this and see how Jimmy Kimmel would hold up if Jimmy Kimmel's standards for Aaron Rodgers were applied to Jimmy Kimmel.
He decided to insinuate that I am a pedophile. This is how these nuts do it now. You don't like Trump, you're a pedophile. It's their go-to move. And it shows you how much they actually care about pedophilia. And as far as you say things about people all the time argument goes, yes, I do. It's not the same. It's not even close to the same. We say a lot of things on this show. We don't make up lies. In fact, we have a team of people who work very hard to sift through facts and reputable sources before I make a joke. And that's an important distinction, a joke about someone, even when that someone is Donald Trump, even a person who lies from the minute he wakes up until the minute he's smearing orange makeup on his My Pillow at night.
They have a team of people that make sure, even when he's making a joke, it's factually accurate. Does what he had to say about Charlie Kirk's assassination earlier this week, does it meet that Jimmy Kimmel standard? What happened to his team of people fact-checking? Right. So it really all starts to fall apart when you listen to these leftist hypocrites, which is why, again, I'm going to keep beating this drum. Allow them to speak and expose their hypocrisy, and let us present ourselves now the same way we did at the height of their cancel culture when they had the White House backing their play, so that it is clear for the American people to see who is on which side. Tim Walz. Yeah, Field Marshal Tim. We found out not Kamala's first choice, but she couldn't go with P-Butt because he's gay. Interesting thing to say from an identitarian leftist like Kamala. Couldn't put a gay man with a black woman. Of course, you got to have just the right identitarian mix, just the right intersectional score, but not too high. I mean, I liked somebody tweeted about her book, 107 Days. Who is it? I want to give credit where credit's due here. Oh, yeah, Mark Bednar. Her book is called 107 Days. He wrote 107 Days and 108 Excuses. Yeah, about right. She's going nowhere. Anyway, I digress. Tim Walz was on with Hayes Maddow. Again, I can't distinguish. And his reaction. Tim Walz's reaction on a free speech issue. Talking of glass houses.
Oh, hi, Chris. Good to see you. Oh, this is it. If you ever wondered how democracy dies, you're witnessing it. And I know it's people are watching a football game tonight and we're kind of sleepwalk through this thing. But
don't remind them. We got him here.
One of the most outrageous affronts. Yeah, well, right. It's one of the most outrageous affronts on this. This is North Korea style stuff. Oh. And it's being done because this is a weak, thin-skinned man who's failing as a president. All of the things he promised are not happening, and this is exactly what dictators do. It's our most cherished freedom to point out very clearly this is a terrible president and a terrible human being who is doing nothing to improve the lives of Minnesotans.
Uh-huh. And Walz went on to, fold in another talking about, and I still haven't seen the Epstein files. Okay. Pack it all in, Tim. This is how democracy dies. Cherished rights. Does Tim Walz remember the Tim Walz of just a couple of years ago? Because he was reminded about that Tim Walz quite a lot. Certainly we did on this program last year when he was Kamala Harris's right hand.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
Cherished right. This is how democracy dies. The same guy. No guarantee on free speech when it comes to what I define as misinformation, what I define as hate speech. Just like Hillary said. Just like they all say and actually believe. Oh, and speaking of Maddow Hayes, is it Rachel? Is it Chris? I almost think it's like one of those Halloween costumes where it's split down the middle, and on one side it's the dude, and on the other side it's the chick. They wear the same glasses. They basically have the same haircut. I mean, it's easy enough to do. And then it's just one salary for MSNBC, and they could probably use tightening the belt over there. But anyway, Chris Hayes, who is there, or Hayes Maddow, they're talking to Tim Walz. They were reveling in their commitment to free speech and how terrible the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel is. This, again, Hayes Maddow, I think it's the Chris side, on speech when it comes to Kimmel versus on speech when it came to Tucker Carlson. Both corporate decisions, but very different reactions.
ABC made the announcement Kimmel would indeed be taken off the air indefinitely. And this is just the latest chapter in Donald Trump's ongoing campaign to crack down on free speech, dominate the media, and essentially render the First Amendment meaningless. So it was for the journeyman cable news host Tucker Carlson, just fired from his third network. He believed he could say anything, no matter how vile, no matter how disgusting, no matter how offensive, no matter how dehumanizing or belittling. And if you act like a sociopath over and over and over and over, you will become unpopular on the national stage. That's just like a basic principle. Over time, probably not going to work out well for you in the long run. Eventually, people will be rightly offended, disgusted by it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, did he veer off talking about Kimmel again, or was he still talking about Tucker at the end there? No, he was still talking about Tucker. Yeah. Complete lack of self-awareness, intellectual consistency. People say, like, how do they not know what they previously said and have a little humility about what they previously said? Well, one, humility is a foreign quality within that group. Number two, I would say they believe their hypocrisy is sort of attendant to their mission to save democracy from itself. Save democracy through force. Again, the contradictions. And three, some of them are so vacuous. They can't remember what they said. They can't remember previous positions they take because they're only living in the moment and taking the position they're supposed to take right now. So if it runs afoul of the position they took 5 minutes ago, well, that was 5 minutes ago, and I was applying my interests 5 minutes ago in a different way, so I had to take a different position. Now I have different interests, and I'm taking a different position. The fact that they're in complete contradiction does not matter to me. I'm advancing my interests in political power, which is what overrides any sort of intellectual consistency, commitment to fair dealing, respect for a free society. All of those things are overridden. That's why it's so easy to pick these people apart with their own words. Keep talking. Please don't ever stop talking. Jordan, Antioch.
Morning, Dan. Yeah, I'm a huge subscriber to the same theories that you are and that Charlie was and everything. And, just let them speak and give them the opportunity to present themselves. I mean, that's been a winning game plan since the original disruptor came, when Jesus used to preach in front of the Pharisees because he knew their response. But it wasn't trying to convert them. It was trying to show them the alternative, right, to show them the other side. And as far as Jimmy Kimmel, if he had better writers, maybe he wouldn't be in the position that he's in. I don't know. Maybe he should take those writers now and do what Tucker did and freelance and see how successful he is. I don't think he'll be quite that successful, but I'm more than happy for them, the Democratic Party and all these people, to hitch their wagon to Jimmy Kimmel and add to the circus train that is their party. I think they forget Elon Musk had to buy Twitter in order to free it up so that you can have opposing ideas. They canceled everything about COVID. I mean, like you said, keep talking. And our part in it, and everybody that's listening, our part in it is to have an informed dialogue with these people and point out every single inaccuracy and hypocrisy and hypocritical statement that they make, because it shuts them down. It clams them up. And the people that are around you are going to see that. You got to remember, you're not going after the person that you're talking to. Like, Dan, like you've said forever, you're not going to convert these people. They are too far gone. But there is always an audience. And a lot of those people are open-minded. You are seeing it right now. People are turning from the Democratic Party to the Republicans, or at least the independent, because they're disgusted with where they've been. You talk about journalists, right? Matt Taibbi. What about Andy Ngo? Andy Ngo saw firsthand the fruits of the leftist labor, right? And said, I ain't part of this. I can't do this. So it will come if we continue to provide the alternative and we also allow them to speak. And one other thing real quick, I would like to hear from some of these local networks that said to ABC, hey, we don't want this. I'd like to know how long they've been saying that to the FCC under the previous administration. I'd like to know how long they've been wanting that crap off of their TV sets in their respective areas that they represent. That would be a really interesting tell. Thanks, Dan. Have a good one.
Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate it. Someone else who was opined on this, former President Barack Obama, remember him? After years of complaining about cancel culture, the current administration has taken it to a new and dangerous level by routinely threatening regulatory action against media companies unless they muzzle or fire reporters and commentators it doesn't like. Roseanne Barr tweeted in response to that, remember when you and your wife called Bob Iger to have me fired? I can't confirm that happened. I do remember when Roseanne, when she was fired, said that she had talked to somebody that was working with Michelle Obama at Netflix, on their wonderful documentary series they're producing for $50 million at Netflix. And that Michelle Obama had made a call. That's what Roseanne was told through a intermediary, that Michelle Obama had made a call to get her fired from the Roseanne show, which of course she ultimately was back then when she sent that ill-advised tweet or posted that ill-advised tweet about Valerie Jarrett. But whatever. I mean, Barack Obama, these people. But like I said, same thing. The Obamas keep talking. Everybody. I'll tell you somebody else in terms of a reckoning, because it may be more important than Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon or Stephen Colbert. I mean, talk about, basically one person sharing a brain. these people that we've talked about this week, like that Hassan Piker dude and that Destiny dude, these sort of gamer YouTube hosts that have much greater followings, it seems to me, than these late night talk show hosts, and much more dangerous followings, in the sense that you want to hear hateful, violence is the means to political ends rhetoric. You listen to these loons and remember who their audience is: young, perhaps disaffected, maladjusted men like the assassin who murdered Charlie Kirk. I mean, this is this guy Destiny.
Not exactly like...
You need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events so that they look to their leadership to turn down the temperature. The issue is right now, they don't feel like there's any fear. Like, I don't know. It's like memes. It's just memes to everybody, I guess. I don't know, bro. I don't know. I don't care. I'm playing video games. Okay. I'm done today. I don't give a
Well, now that his content of that sort, he offered some other, as you would suspect, customarily intemperate remarks on his appearance with Piers Morgan recently after Charlie Kirk's assassination. Now YouTube has hit his channel with broad demonetization. This after he suggested what you just heard there, that conservatives need to be afraid of getting killed. We're going to kill you if you don't turn down the rhetoric. The irony of statements like that is completely lost on him. But there's a market response, YouTube. That's content-based and within YouTube's rights. I didn't hear anybody denouncing Destiny. I hear very few people on the left, I'm saying, denouncing Destiny or denouncing Hassan Piker, who explicitly call for violence against people with whom they disagree. Explicitly and repeatedly. So, where things stand. But the proponents of free speech and free thinking, the consistent ones, we're going to win the day on this. So that's the side you want to be on. Coming up at 6:36, we'll turn our attention to the honoring of Dick Durbin by the Chicago Archdiocese. 6:36. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning, 70 degrees in Chicago and AM 560 The Answer. I'm John Cruz in the AlmostFreeTeeth.com newsroom. Lots of sun today, mid-80s, showers inbound tonight and Saturday. New vaccine guidance. The newly appointed CDC panel facing a critical vote today on the hepatitis B vaccine. For decades, giving the vaccine at birth has been standard. The panel Thursday recommending the measles, mumps, rubella, and chickenpox vaccine be split into 2 shots and not given before the age of 4. Protests getting underway this morning for a student at Elgin Community College who was reportedly taken into ICE custody on Thursday morning. The school confirmed it happened in a parking lot. That student not identified nor the circumstances released. The college says in a statement they're focused on supporting students in a safe environment. And a French automotive supplier coming to Illinois, OP Mobility, will open their first facility in the state in Normal. The plant will be used to assemble bumpers for Rivion's R2, which will be available for consumers starting in 2026. The new facility will create 81 new full-time jobs. News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Have you been getting high quotes on dental implants? With medical PPO insurance, it's possible to save 90% off on average. See if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Making smiles great again. We're checking traffic coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Your home is a valuable asset, and you want to take care of your home. From roofs, siding, windows, and doors to furnaces, flooring, landscaping, and much more. Listen to your go-to for all things home. It's Home Answers Radio every Sunday morning at 9. Presented by Lang Home Medical Equipment, Valdecast Windows and Doors, and by JeffBuysYourHouse.com. Get answers from industry experts so you can make informed decisions about your home improvement. Right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Wow. At the time of this being written, both gold and silver are up some 40%. That's 40% in just 1 year. In fact, this past year, gold has broken all-time historic records by hundreds of dollars an ounce. And unlike all other financial instruments used today, that historic record goes back thousands of years. In times like these, prices have never been better on most collector and gold coins. Fox Valley Coins in Naperville is trying to keep up with demand. So they're paying the most ever on not only most gold coins and bars, but also those old coin and paper money collections. They're especially looking for the scarcer dates and higher grade coins. Take advantage of the record high market price and our huge demand now, whether you're buying or selling, or just want to find out their worth. Fox Valley Coins is the place to go. Fox Valley Coins is on Route 59, just 1 light north of I-88 at the Naperville-Warrenville border. Family-owned integrity since 1981.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at TruePowerGenerator.com. That's TruePowerGenerator.com. And right now, AM 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty with their Generac. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
Did you know a will alone does not keep your family out of court when you die? The court still has to approve your will, but get a living trust, and your estate can be settled clearly without issue. Talk to the attorneys at Nauman & Associates. They prepare wills and trusts for a flat fee, no surprises, no hourly rate. With decades of experience, they know the law and offer a free consultation. Contact Nauman & Associates in Elk Grove Village, nalawgroup.com. Call 847-593-8777.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has programs specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, their award-winning tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Find the best options to solve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief today for a free consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Are you looking to hire? ZipRecruiter finds the best candidate for your job fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
The Team Hawkburg Traffic Center watching the roads. A new crash in the Tri-State. This is on the shoulder this morning of the Jane Addams Tollway. Watch for traffic building there. Building traffic across the board this morning. Inbound Ike, about a 22-minute cruise into downtown. Headlights getting bunched up on the Kennedy. More or less a 30-minute trip O'Hare into downtown. The Eden's looking good. No major backups. The Kennedy outbound between Canfield and 190 as well. Traffic building on the Eisenhower inbound between Manheim and Des Plaines Avenue. The Stevenson looking okay. They got some inbound issues between Harlem and Western Avenue, about a 5-minute backup. The Dan Ryan inbound from 95th to the Byrne interchange, about a 16-minute drive. No major issues there. Friday Chicago rush hour looks okay at this point. This report sponsored by Blindster.com. What if they can guarantee the price of Bitcoin will be $1 million in 2030? Well, they can't, but they can guarantee you'll save a lot of money on blinds at their company, Blindster.com. Free samples, free shipping, and guaranteed to fit. Shop at Blindster.com today. Chicago's Morning Answer is next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be very warm with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 86. Tonight stays mostly cloudy and warm with a chance of a few showers and a thunderstorm, mainly later on. Expect a low of 66. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Outgoing Senator Dick Sack of Durbin will be honored on November 3rd, 2025, with the Archdiocese of Chicago's Office of Human Dignity and Solidarity Lifetime Achievement Award. You know, because he's a good Catholic. Blaise Supich, he's the cardinal, don't you know? On behalf of the Archdiocese of Chicago's Office of Human Dignity and Solidarity, will present Dick Durbin with a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Keep Hope Alive but not the kids, Keep Hope Alive benefit on November 3rd. I mean, it's almost a statement that is a question. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. I don't really, there's not much more texture you need to add to it than that if you know anything. But I suppose we'll add some. Just for those who maybe have forgotten Dick Durbin was still around, don't know his record, don't know that he sold his soul for 30 pieces of silver, or maybe, and maybe this was before he was a member of Congress, maybe before he was even a staffer for Senator Paul Senator Paul Simon, of course, the bow tie. People say I'm boring because of the bow tie. Paul Simon, yeah, Dick Durbin's never had a job. I mean, he had a job working for a politician, then became a politician. But when he was a Central Illinois congresswoman, he was pro-life. Just like Jesse Jackson Sr. was. Until he had to decide between his party and his political aspirations and his faith, assuming that is something he takes seriously, which he says so I'm going to take him at face value. And then he flipped just like Jesse Sr. did. Mary Kate Zander is the president of Illinois Right to Life. She responded, the church emphasizes that human beings are integrated persons and that we cannot live in spiritual harmony if we are denying even one aspect of the truth of the faith. Presenting Dick Durbin with an award, and from the Office of Human Dignity, no less, is an explicitly inconsistent and un-Catholic choice by Cardinal Supich. Not only does it cause scandal among the faithful by creating confusion, it also puts the senator's soul at risk by failing to hold him accountable for his refusal to oppose abortion in the United States Senate. Yeah, his refusal to oppose abortion, and by that she means abortion on demand, all 9 months, and we'll have a conversation, publicly financed. Dick Durbin has voted against a partial birth abortion ban. He has voted against a pain-capable Unborn Child Protection Act, which ought to ban abortions after 20 weeks when children can feel pain. He voted against the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act, which would have mandated life-saving care for infants born alive during failed abortions. Voted against the Born Alive Abortion Act. Literally. The child is born, then we have a conversation. He's Ralph Northam and then some. You also recall Dick Durbin's statements in Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation hearing, in which he asked if she was an Orthodox Catholic. If he wanted to know because he wanted to inform the FBI if she attends the Latin Mass, they better put a tail on her. One of the Catholic leaders in the state, not named Supich, is Bishop Tom Paprocki. He's in the Diocese of Springfield. He prohibited Durbin from receiving communion. There was a 2004 decision by then Monsignor Kevin Vann to deny Durbin communion. It's still in effect. Catholics who are obstinately preserving in manifest grave sin are denied the sacrament. That's canon law in the church. And that fits the description of Dick Durbin. And you say, well, his private life versus political life. U.S. Catholic Conference of Bishops on statement on Catholics in political life. Catholics who bring their moral convictions into public life do not threaten democracy or pluralism, but enrich them and the nation. The separation of church and state does not require division between belief and public action, between moral principles and political choices, but protects the right of believers and religious groups to practice their faith and act on their values in public life. Right. Your faith informs your moral code, which informs your policy choices. That's not complicated. Thinking about the mediating institutions in society. You know, I know we've just spent the last hour talking about, a late night talk show host, but it wasn't about Jimmy Kimmel. It was about the larger issues of free speech and free thinking and a free society and the hypocrisy of the left and so on and so forth. It was bigger than Jimmy Kimmel. But I say that to say, we spend a lot of time on things that are difficult to control, difficult even to impact. And then the things we can impact locally, like our schools, locally, like our local government, even our state government through our local representatives, and our local parishes or other faith institutions, we sort of are oblivious to or don't feel the need to, kind of getting into a dust up locally because it may be uncomfortable. I just want, peace where I live. And so I don't want to get into arguments. Well, okay. And then all of a sudden boys are playing on your girls volleyball team and Dick Durbin is getting a Lifetime Achievement Award from your Cardinal. And you're like, how'd this happen? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. George in Naperville.
Yes, Dan, is this the first step taken by the church to beatify Durbin? We know he's incorruptible.
Yeah, thanks for the call, George. I don't think he's going to make it to sainthood, but I take your cynicism. Marvin, Burlington, Wisconsin.
Yes, it's to me, it's not about politics. It's about life. And it supersedes politics. And these people who give these awards, the Cardinal, he's got to know the Pope. The Pope is from Chicago. I'm sure they know each other. Why wouldn't he say, what, is this allowed? This is not allowed to do this? I mean, it's like the Pulitzer Prize that the newspaper people give themselves after they write a fictitious story that's been promoted for 2.5 years and then it's proven to all be false. How do you stay a Catholic and differentiate yourself from other religions when there supposedly was the only one who stood up against abortion? I mean, it's insane. It's insane. And they wonder why people are leaving the Catholic Church. I mean, they're going to places where Charlie Kirk had spoken and other denominations that actually believe in the Bible's teachings. It's really counterproductive for the church hierarchy to have such deaf ears that they don't even know what their people are crying out for, which is a little bit of guideposts. It's heartbreaking, just heartbreaking in my view.
Thanks, Marvin. Appreciate that. Yeah, they're not too rigid when it comes to the faith or even their own policy book. From the Archdiocese of Chicago's own policy book, section 2201.1 for those scoring at home. Any Catholic entity subject to the authority of the Archbishop of Chicago and any boards, fundraising communities affiliated with them shall not give awards or honors or host presentations, speaking opportunities, or appearances by individuals or organizations whose public position is in opposition to the fundamental moral principles of the Catholic Church. I mean, how squarely does this fit into your own, to that own prohibition? I mean, Dick Durbin's picture should be next to that provision in the policy book. Tom in Blue Island.
Good morning, Dan. Dan, my question for you is, what's the nascence of an award like this? I can't imagine that people or Blaise Supich, they're sitting there saying, maybe we'll give Dick Durbin this great Catholic award. I mean, is this something that Durbin or his staff must have petitioned for or something?
Well, I don't know.
I don't know. The bigger scum, or did they just say, let's find the biggest scumbag in Illinois we can and give him this award?
Thanks for the call, Tom. I mean, this could have been, completely on the volition of Supich. It was pointed out also by Illinois Right to Life in their statement that Supich spoke at the DNC. I mean, he really is a politician in a robe. Supich, I'm talking about. Cardinal Bernardine, Joseph Cardinal Bernardine, he was a man of the left. But when he was asked to speak at DNC back during his time as cardinal, I think in the mid-90s, he declined. Didn't want to get pulled into that. It's just the continuing devolution and disintegration of the church is certainly part of the conversation. The good news is I think that young people, and in part because of Charlie Kirk's example and influence with young people, are coming back to the faith, Christianity, Catholicism, other faiths. Coming back to faith life is something that's important. But I wouldn't say the leadership of the Archdiocese of Chicago is helping that cause very much. By the way, just on a practical matter, based on 2022 CDC data, the percentage of pregnancies ending in abortion, excluding miscarriages, New Mexico, 36%, D.C., 34%. 34% of pregnancies ending in abortion in D.C. In Illinois, 31%. 1 in 3 pregnancies in Illinois ending in abortion. And what's the response from the political power structure in the state? Jelly Belly personally finances it. Abortion tourism is one of our staple industries. What a ghoulish, ghoulish place we have allowed Illinois to become. We have allowed the Catholic Church to be a participant in the ghoulishness. Oh, and just as an aside, and just in terms of, the future of civilization, the future of American civilization, and thus humanity, University of New Hampshire analysis finds 5.7 million more childless women of prime childbearing age in 2024 than past trends predicted, tripling the gap from 2016. Among women under 30, childlessness spiked hardest. There are 4 million more women aged 20 to 39 than in 2006, but 7 million fewer births. 4 million more women than 20 years ago, under 30, 7 million fewer births. Sociologist Kenneth Johnson warns of a looming demographic cliff. Fewer kids means long-term hits to schools, healthcare, child-focused businesses, and eventually the labor force. Not to mention what it means for the future of America, generally speaking. Ralph and Rantoul.
Hi, good morning, Dan. A couple of years ago, well, number one, I would be curious to know how much NGO money that Durbin might have been either helpful or just directing to the Chicago diocese. And the reason I say that is that I shut down a Catholic organization, I should say an organization that solely worked for the Catholic Church across the nation a couple of years ago. I helped liquidate the company. I'd love to tell you particulars, but I'm under an NDA. But what I found in dealing with those various entities is that some of them, not all, obviously, but some of them were just solely more concerned with the financial aspect, it seemed at the time, than any sort of spiritual or, dealing with actual church issues. It was really more about the money. And I can understand that when there's a financial problem, you need a financial solution. But the vast behavior that I encountered, including Chicago diocese specifically, I would be curious to see how much of that is maybe fealty to Durbin because of money that he brought forward. So now they feel like they owe him. I know it's not right and it's not a good explanation, but I'd be curious to know.
Yeah, and while he opposed school choice, which would benefit Catholic schools in addition to other private schools. I mean, $1 for you and $3 for the government schools and $5 for Planned Parenthood. There's no squaring this circle. Dave in Romeoville.
Your talk just reminded me, I'm in Romeoville. We were in the gerrymander district that was Lipinski's.
Mm-hmm.
And he was invited to come speak at our church and came to a couple of our fundraisers because he was pro-life.
Right.
And just the irony of that, his own party went after him, including party leaders. I don't remember Durbin specifically speaking out against him, but he sure as heck didn't protect him. And he was out. His own party ran against him for being pro-life. And I don't think there's any pro-life Democrats left.
Nope. Thanks for the call, Dave. Nope. Greg in on the Northwest Side.
Hey, Dan. Good morning.
Morning.
This particular thing that you have going on with Durbin, one particular short line from the Gospel of Luke comes to mind. Give us Barabbas.
Thanks for the call, Greg. Joe, Arlington Heights.
Hey, good morning, Dan. I pray for our priests and bishops as a practicing Catholic, but it's so hard to square the circle, as they say. When the young woman was killed on the train in Charlotte, the Arch had no statement in a press release. Charlie Kirk, there's no statement on the website. There's nothing. I think my parish priest said it best. He's just another liberal politician.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Joe.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Chicago businesses. You can't afford to be down. You don't have time to wait for IT support. You need one company that does IT well and does it right. Meet Access One, your local Chicagoland IT experts. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for over 30 years from our headquarters right here in the West Loop. Whether it's VoIP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backups, or 24/7 support, Access One is here for you. Chicago-owned, Chicago-run, and serving thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore. Access One is the trusted IT partner for law firms, clinics, tech startups, to manufacturers. Rated top 5% in customer satisfaction and a Better Business Bureau A+ rated business. Access One is your one vendor for everything tech. Let's talk. Call 800-804-8333 or visit accessoneInc.com. That's accessoneInc.com. Tech made personal, locally.
My friend Paula just remodeled her kitchen. I feel bad. It's so bland.
Yeah.
Everyone's using the same templated designs these days or just refacing cabinets.
Let's check out Forever Remodeling. They do full and custom kitchen remodels from the ground up, just for us.
It'd be nice to have a kitchen that's truly ours.
Exactly.
Don't get the same kitchen design as everyone else. Visit Forever Remodeling today at foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, everremodeling.com. And tell them AM 560 sent you.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 7:07, we'll talk to Noah Rothman from National Review. Also, update you on one of the local stories we brought to you about an unstable woman railing against Charlie Kirk in death. I mean, disgusting. Napleton, the auto group, has responded to the statements made by Maureen Napleton. We'll have that as well. It is now 7 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
Back to work at the White House. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. President Trump was in England for a couple of days today, expected to speak with China's President Xi about finalizing a deal for TikTok to be sold to an American company. The president's also urging NATO allies to stop buying Russian oil.
We get the oil down, that war ends.
The president with reporters on Air Force One flying back to D.C. European Union nations have promised to phase out buying Russian oil by 2028 and pledged to buy $750 billion worth of American energy as part of a trade agreement announced in July. Fox's Kristen Goodwin has more on that planned conversation with China's President Xi about TikTok.
President Trump reflecting on the value of TikTok ahead of his discussion with Chinese President Xi Jinping.
Sounds like they've approved TikTok, and TikTok is a tremendous amount of money for the United States, so that was nice. But we'll see how that all works.
Telling Fox's The Story with Martha McCallum, his relationship with China is very good. The leaders' talk comes following U.S. officials revealing they've reached a deal with China to switch TikTok, owned by Beijing-based company ByteDance, to U.S.-controlled ownership to address security concerns. President Trump again extending the deadline to keep the app available in the U.S. until December 16th, giving time for the two governments to work out the details of the agreement. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
Congress has a week and a half until September 30th to come up with an agreement to fund the federal government, prevent a partial government shutdown. Republicans and Democrats have put out their own plans to fund the government until House Speaker Mike Johnson says a more cohesive bill is finalized. A vote on the Republicans' plans is expected today.
We genuinely just need to buy a little more time for the appropriator to do their job. I can't understand how anybody could make a rational argument against that unless they're trying to use it for partisan political purposes.
Speaker Johnson on Fox's special report. The Taliban in Afghanistan's released a British couple held for more than 7 months on undisclosed charges. Peter and Barbie Reynolds, 80 and 75 years old, had lived in Afghanistan for 18 years. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning, 70 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm John Cruz in the AlmostFreeTeeth.com newsroom. Calm today, high of 85. Rain creeps up starting tonight. The family of a 9-year-old boy hit and killed while crossing the street outside a Chicago elementary school Thursday is calling for murder charges against the driver, who police say was released without charges. The boy identified as 9-year-old Anakin Perez, who lived nearby. The incident happened in the 4000 block of West Walton, where a woman driving a light-colored sedan hit 9-year-old Perez on the street. That boy taken to a hospital where he was pronounced dead. Now, police first said that driver, who has not been identified, was taken into custody, but police later said the driver was released without charges. Operation Midway Blitz continues in the Chicago area today. ICE agents making several arrests Thursday in suburban Naperville. Witnesses say federal agents approached a group repairing roofs. A reported ICE arrest of an Elgin Community College student on Thursday, prompting a protest this morning. No one is in custody after a woman stabbed on the CTA Blue Line in West Suburban Oak Park. That crime happened early Thursday. Police say the victim got into an argument with a group of men. The dispute turned physical, and one of the men stabbed the woman with a sharp object. The woman got off the train at the Oak Park stop and was taken to a hospital in fair condition. A suburban hospital shutting down its labor and delivery services starting in late October. Vista Hospital in Waukegan will shut down their maternity and OBGYN services next month. The city says the cuts come after a slew of changes at the North Suburban Hospital, including changes to its cardiac care, furloughs, and loss of trauma status. And Illinois opens Big Ten play on the road tomorrow against number 17 Indiana. They are 3-0 after shutting out Western Michigan 38-0 last Saturday. The Hoosiers are also 3-0. News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Have you been getting high quotes for dental implants? With medical PPO insurance, it's possible to save 90% off on average. See if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Making smiles great again. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Town Hall News, where conservative voices cut through the noise from breaking headlines to fearless opinion. We report what matters without apology. Written by people who actually believe what you believe. Town Hall tells the stories the corporate press buries, from President Trump to Capitol Hill, from pivotal elections to your everyday lives. Join the movement at townhall.com. Real stories, real reporters, real conservative media.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call now at 800-533-6605 for a free consultation. For 17 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and a Christian-owned company. Don't get stuck in the endless cycle of payments. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Christian-owned Total Financial Freedom now at 800-533-6605. That's 800-533-6605. 800-533-6605.
You're great at protecting your data, but lots of places could still expose you to identity theft. If that happens, LifeLock gives you the U.S.-based restoration agent who will stick by your side from start to finish. Phone calls, filing documentation, preparing insurance claims. Your agent handles it all. In fact, they're so confident restoration is guaranteed or your money back. It's nice to have an expert like that on your side. Save up to 40% off your first year with promo code Beck at LifeLock.com. That's LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. We're dedicated to serving people 50 and up, like me. Our needs are different. Big Wireless wants us in an unlimited plan, but if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used. At Consumer Cellular, we're focused on affordable, reliable plans, including data that suits your needs, not ours. Our plans start at just $20, and you'll get the best customer service in the business.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Have you ever wondered why some people seem to experience God's favor in extraordinary ways? There's a secret hiding in plain sight throughout Scripture. God has designed a pathway to blessing that runs directly through our relationship with Israel. It's not complicated. It's not mysterious. It's actually beautifully simple. A promise is found in Genesis 12. God said, "I will bless those who bless you." This holy equation has been working for 4,000 years. From Abraham's time to today, God rewards those who align their hearts with his heart for Israel. It's like stepping into the river of blessing that's been flowing since the beginning. When I support the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, I'm not just giving charity. I'm plugging into God's ancient blessing system. I'm choosing to flow with his plan instead of against it. The results speak for themselves. Lives transformed, families blessed, purposes fulfilled. As Christians, we believe we've been grafted into God's family tree. Let's discover what it means to be united with his chosen people through faith. To learn more, visit ifcj.org. That's ifcj.org.
All right, traffic starting to build up for this Friday rush hour on the Edens inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, about a 17-minute drive, 14-minute drive if you're Edens outbound from Montrose to Lake Cook. Stop and go on the Kennedy if you're inbound between Montrose and Kimmel, about a 9-minute backup there. 15-minute delay on the Ike inbound between Manheim and Western Avenue. You're adding about 11 minutes to your commute if you're on the Stevenson inbound between Harlem and Western Avenue. About a 35-minute drive from O'Hare into downtown on the Kennedy. 11-minute delay if you're Stevenson inbound between Harlem and Western, and Stevenson outbound, 5 minutes backup between Kedzie and Cicero. No major issues on the Dan Ryan if you're outbound from the Byrne interchange to 95th Street. It'll take you about 10 minutes there. And plenty of brake lights on DuSable Lake Shore this morning, northbound between Roosevelt and Monroe Drive. This traffic update quickly delivered to you by Quick Delivery Service. Why are you sitting in Friday traffic? Time is money. When you need your important items delivered quickly, Quick Delivery Service will be there to pick it up and take it to its destination. Go to quickdelivery.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now check out your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be very warm with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 86. Tonight stays mostly cloudy and warm with a chance of a few showers and a thunderstorm mainly later on. Expect a low of 66. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Buttigieg would have been an ideal partner if I were a straight white man. But we were already asking a lot of America, to accept a woman, a black woman married to a Jewish man. Part of me wanted to say, screw it, let's just do it. But knowing what was at stake, it was too big of a risk. Those are the words of dizzying intellect Kamala Harris in her new book, 107 Days. And as I said, Mark Bednar's reaction was one of my favorites on X. 107 Days and 108 Excuses. We've been talking all morning about the lack of self-awareness. I feel like J.D. Vance talking to Martha Raddatz. Do you hear yourself? Does your editor hear you? Buttigieg, quote, would have been an ideal partner if I were a straight white man, but we were already asking a lot of America to accept a woman, a black woman married to a Jewish man. Part of me wanted to say, screw it, let's just do it. But knowing what was at stake, it was too big of a risk. It was too big of a risk for me to believe that America isn't this bigoted place that we had to, and that we had to overcome the fact that I'm a black woman and that I'm married to a Jewish man, because everyone looks at each other the way that I look at demographics on a spreadsheet about the electorate. That's all that people care about. Pay no mind to the fact that America elected a black man twice. Okay, but it's the race combined with the sex combined with the sexual orientation. It would have just been too much, because the majority of Americans will not make a decision based on the merits or based on someone's character or based on someone's policy views or a combination of all of the above. They're strictly going to say, here is the highest intersectional score I'll accept, and I will accept no higher score when it comes to my presidential ticket. She just gets dumber. And by the way, she's not the only one. Kathy Hochul is the governor of New York. Yeah, seriously. She is someone who you may remember essentially suggested that black kids at New York City public schools don't know what a computer is. Here's what she recently had to say when she was celebrating herself for handing out $250 quote-unquote inflation rebate checks to people under a certain income threshold in New York State, to buy votes.
One day, get something you really need, okay? Don't stop by the liquor store, okay? Buy something for the kids. Buy them some food. Sometimes I have to stop by the liquor store, too. I understand. It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah. She was talking to a mainly black audience. I think she heard in her head what she said and then tried to bail herself out by saying sometimes I have to stop at the liquor store, too. Could you have any less regard for the people you say you are running or in office to represent? Could you have any lower opinion of them? For more on all this, please be joined by Noah Rothman, senior writer at National Review, author of The Rise of the New Puritans, Fighting Back Against Progressives' War on Fun. Noah, thanks for joining us as always.
My pleasure.
So Kamala Harris, excited admission, although not that excited because this had to go through some scrutiny. It's a remarkable disclosure.
I have so little to add to your introductory monologue. Everything has been said and perfectly well. I had the exact same reaction. I think probably everybody on the right, or at least most people on the right, had a very similar reaction because we can see how the obvious mental gymnastics that you're performing in order to avoid, just flat out telling on yourself. But that is basically what she's doing. I marvel at the degree to which this woman wrote these words down. They went through an editor. They went through her publisher. They were surveyed by her publicist. They were reviewed by The Atlantic. Nobody encountered a pang of conscience while disseminating this slight against the American people. And it is an insult. Yeah, you're racist.
Yeah.
You're probably homophobic. You're probably sexist and anti-Semitic. Or at least one of those three, if not all of them. We just simply can't bombard you with all this stuff. You're not saying anything about the American people in that. You're saying that about yourself.
Right.
That's how you see the public. That's how you see the political landscape. Just a set of demographics and people who are flattened into the traits that they inherited at birth and have no individuality associated with them. In fact, we can probably just assess them to be the worst possible versions of themselves. And then, even more insulting is that the press goes and runs with this, operating, I assume, under the assumption that they're the good ones, that they actually don't belong to this noxious club that Kamala Harris is indicting here, like CNN's former CNN host Chris Cillizza. Harris might have been right about this, he writes, but it also reflects a broader risk aversion that plagued her campaign. Well, Chris, it reflects a lot of things, but risk aversion is not what that demonstrates. That takes on quite a bit of risk. It just takes on no risk with your cohort. Your ideological cohort regards the assumption that the American people are fundamentally racist, fundamentally bigoted, is just taken at face value. It's a religious precept. So, there's no risk in retailing that to you, but it certainly does to everybody else. And the kind of condescension that buttresses the foundation upon which that assumption is based, a really high estimation of your acumen and enlightenment and a low estimation of everybody else's, that comes through in other ways. We all experience the kind of condescension that Kamala Harris retailed over the course of that campaign. She probably didn't see it and Democrats didn't see it, but we all did, and the American people rejected it. And this is a symptom of that broader malady.
It is sort of a risky, I got to say, it's not risk aversion because it's sort of a risky proposition. I mean, she didn't say it in these words, but it might as well have been, my campaign for president, I wanted to do the right thing, but the American people wouldn't let me.
Just when you put it that way,
right?
It's like, how dare you? This is all your fault. I mean, it is barely concealed contempt for the American people for rejecting her. But that contempt was apparent before she was rejected. If we're to take this assessment at face value, she had no regard for you and your capacity for rational judgment before voters turned against her. So, it is illustrative of a particular outlook, not just Kamala Harris's outlook either. I mean, this is the sort of thing that encounters no resistance among the liberal intelligentsia.
No, I mean, if Ron DeSantis would have said what Kathy Hochul said, I mean,
instantly they definitely see it when it comes from mouths that they're already disinclined to agree with.
But the thing that's consistent with Kamala and Kathy Hochul and the left in general too is that, and it's been for a long time. This isn't new, but it bears readdressing. It's just the infantilization that you're talking about. I have no expectations for you. I have no belief that you have any sort of capacity that you can even get through the day without me giving you something that I took from somebody else, or providing explicit direction as to how you're supposed to live and what you're supposed to think.
And this is all catching on in the political culture. The divide now, is not between skin colors. It's not between demographics. It's cultural. It's your affect. It's your mood. It's your disposition. It's your economic bracket. And it's increasingly less affinity groups based on race. Kamala Harris's demographic background has very little to do with how she's received by people who have a certain amount or a certain disposition based on their culture, their acculturation, their income bracket, and that doesn't matter about race. For example, Zohran Mamdani's, when he was in the primary, the Democratic primary, Zohran Mamdani's worst performing groups were low-income Americans and African-American demographics. In the boroughs in New York City that are dominated by African-Americans, he performed the lowest, and it had nothing to do with his skin color, everything to do with his affect, his demeanor, and the world in which he came up, which is very effete, very elite, rich, wealthy, progressive, inculcated, just sort of isolated from broader society. And they're trained in this jargon, this highly pseudo-academic jargon that emphasizes demography as though it were destiny. And that's just rejected increasingly by the people who share the demographics that they think they're appealing to. So it is a dead end. They just haven't recognized it yet.
Yeah, and that dynamic is sort of papered over by the apparent success of somebody like Mamdani in New York City. But Steve Kornacki, reporting for NBC, the 28 states that register voters by party, Republicans have slashed longstanding Democratic registration edge by more than 1 million just since the 2024 election. By comparison, after Trump's first term, or in Trump's first term, the net shift to the GOP after 2016, before 2018, was barely 100,000. So they're already at 10x. And there's been more data that along those lines that suggests real moves away from, especially big moves away from Democrats, and then a slightly bigger move towards Republicans. Some are, moving from Democrat to independent and holding serve and seeing what happens. But I just wonder what you think of those trend lines. And then now, I know it's difficult to predict, but your intuition on it after the Charlie Kirk assassination.
So I haven't seen a lot. Polling is sort of too fresh. I mean, the event is too fresh to see that in polling. And I see incongruity between these trends towards Republican registration rates and the polling ahead of the midterms, which is, again, very premature, but does not seem to indicate that there's, we don't see indications that Democrats should experience a wave next year, although it's, again, far too early and a lot of things will happen between then and now. But Republicans aren't cleaning up in the generic ballot test, which tests generally if you want Republicans or Democrats to control Congress. So I'd be cautious about extrapolating broadly from these registration trends. That said, when I was young, late 90s, early 2000s, the New Deal coalition was still very much a thing. And it was the broadest possible coalition of voters you can possibly imagine. I mean, during the New Deal, it was a coalition that included Southern segregationists and civil rights activists. It was the broadest possible coalition you can imagine. And it was still very effective and operative. Like, 1994 was the first time since, I believe, 1947 that Republicans took over Congress. So it was this behemoth that could not be undone until then, and you still saw evidence of it even up to 2011, 2012. The Mississippi legislature, for example, didn't turn Republican until 2011. Like this is stuff that we grew up with, and it was really powerful, and it's been falling away rapidly. But we sort of take it for granted that we live in this brand new political culture where Republicans are actually equally represented in voter registration or in Congress. I mean, that's the sort of thing that was not conceivable when I was young, and is now a feature of life. So we're moving through some really tumultuous times when it comes to political self-identification, but yet to be determined how that manifests in the 2026 midterms. It's a much bigger story than just one election cycle.
Noah Rothman, senior writer, National Review, author of The Rise of the New Puritans, Fighting Back Against Progressives' War on Fun. Noah, thank you as always.
Thank you.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Too often, cremated remains are kept at home, then forgotten. At Queen of Heaven Cemetery in Hillside, we have your cremation options. Come visit our new cremation garden, see our beautiful granite columbariums, or view our elegant indoor glass front niches. These offer sacred, lasting ways to honor your loved one. If cremation is your choice, our memorialization is a forever option. Give them the dignity of a permanent resting place where they'll be remembered for generations. Visit us today, CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org.
When it comes to industrial coating and finishing, cutting corners isn't an option. That's why leading manufacturers across the Midwest trust D&D Industrial Coatings in Racine, Wisconsin. From powder coating and liquid painting to blasting and custom finishing, D&D Industrial delivers top-tier protection and performance, fast, precise, and built to last. With over 40 years of experience, ISO-certified processes, and state-of-the-art lines, D&D handles everything from OEMs and petrochemical to agriculture, marine, construction, medical, and government specs. Family-owned, nationally trusted. Whether it's a short run or high volume, your parts are in expert hands, finished on time and finished right. Visit them today, ddindustrial.net. Again, that's ddindustrial.net. Or call them at 262-637-0686 to get your custom quote today. Again, that's 262-637-0686. D&D Industrial Coatings. Engineered to protect. Finished to impress.
Hi, Dan Proft here. Data shows that boys make up more than 1/3 of those exploited in the sex trade. However, there are virtually no services available to male victims and survivors of trafficking and exploitation. They are often overlooked, ignored, and left without support. For 35 years, Emmaus has been on the front lines of an issue most of us can hardly imagine, helping men and boys in Chicago escape the nightmare of human trafficking and rebuild their lives. On Friday, November 1st, you're invited to attend an unforgettable evening at the Emmaus 35th Anniversary Gala at Fisherman's Inn in Elburn, Illinois. Together, they'll celebrate faith, freedom, and restoration with a beautifully catered dinner, an inspiring program, and a silent auction, all to support the mission of rescuing and restoring survivors. This is your chance to do something that truly matters. Reserve your seat today, or if you can't attend, make a life-changing donation at streets.org. That's streets.org. Emmaus is restoring lives. Let's help them keep going. Visit streets.org.
Your home or business has storm damage and you have an insurance claim.
Call Crosscom.
Crosscom Construction and Public Adjusters. Today, insurance companies are notorious for offering way too little money to repair damage to your home or commercial building due to wind, hail, tornado, floods, or fire. Crosscom works for you, not the insurance company. As licensed adjusters, Crosscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout.
Call Crosscom.
630-871-5500. After they get you the fair insurance company result, Crosscom can start doing your repairs. Crosscom is a full construction and restoration company that will get your property back to its pre-loss condition, getting your life back to normal. Roof, siding, windows, doors, fire restoration, Crosscom does it all.
Call Crosscom.
Licensed in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin.
This is Dan Leitz with Crosscom. We share your conservative and Christian values. Let us handle everything. It all starts with a call.
630-871-5500. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $257. There are only two good things about aging, wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part? My guidance costs you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side. Your own health insurance mentor. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
You ever wonder why Verizon charges twice as much as Pure Talk for the same basic service? Think it might have something to do with the fact that Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotion. That's billion with a B. Yeah, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. That's why they can offer unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a blazing fast 5G network for just $25 a month. Save an additional 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say the words micro. That's pound 250, micro. You're great at protecting your data, but lots of places could still expose you to identity theft. If that happens, LifeLock gives you the U.S.-based restoration agent who will stick by your side from start to finish. Phone calls, filing documentation, preparing insurance claims. Your agent handles it all. In fact, They're so confident restoration is guaranteed or your money back. It's nice to have an expert like that on your side. Save up to 40% off your first year with promo code Beck at LifeLock.com. That's LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
The IRS finally caught up with Louie.
I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I owed the IRS a lot of money.
Louie was in deep trouble.
We're going to take your house, put a lien on your bank account, garnish your pay. They don't care. They're going to take your paycheck.
Louie found out about Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima Tax, they help me. They calm me down. They make me feel comfortable, and I trust them.
Louie has a lot to be thankful for.
I don't owe the IRS anymore, and I'm able to live a comfortable life, a lot better life. It was because of Optima Tax.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation. Take it from Louie.
If you owe the IRS, don't go it alone. Give Optima Tax a call. They can help you.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
Making the switch to a new communications and IT company may seem like a big ordeal, but if you're not getting the reliable support, consistent internet, and secure solutions your company needs, meet Access One, your local Chicagoland IT experts. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for over 30 years from our headquarters right here in the West Loop. Whether it's VoIP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backups, or 24/7 support, Access One is here for you. Serving thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore, Access One is Chicago-owned and Chicago-run, a trusted IT partner for law firms, clinics, tech startups to manufacturers. We'll make the switch easier than you think. Let's talk. Call 800-804-8333 or visit accessoneInc.com. Rated top 5% in customer satisfaction and a Better Business Bureau A+ rated business. That's accessoneInc.com. Tech made personal locally.
AM 560. The Answer.
Coming up at 7:37, we'll update the story about the lawyer who worked for Napleton Auto Group. Apparently, they're saying she doesn't or doesn't anymore. Some people want attention. She does. Napleton apparently does. Mark Braun, who is the president of the Norwood Harwood Heights Library Board, he also wants some attention. So we're going to give some people the attention they want at 7:37. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning, 71 degrees in Chicago and AM 560 The Answer. I'm John Cruz in the AlmostFreeTeeth.com newsroom. Sunny today, high of 85, chance of rain tonight. On an 8-3 vote, a CDC vaccine advisory panel recommending a combination measles, mumps, rubella, and chickenpox vaccine be split up into 2 shots not given before the age of 4. Now, this panel, handpicked by Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., members today will issue a recommendation on the hepatitis B vaccine. A 9-year-old boy is dead after being hit and killed by a car on Chicago's west side. It happened Thursday morning outside McNair Elementary School on the 4800 block of West Walton Street. The driver taken into custody. Charges are pending. And police warning residents living near O'Hare about a series of recent car break-ins. Most of the targeted vehicles were pickup trucks in hotel parking lots. A group of at least 4 people broke the rear passenger windows. The break-ins reported in Rosemont, Des Plaines, Norridge, and Park Ridge. News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Have you been getting high quotes for dental implants? With medical PPO insurance, it's possible to save 90% off on average. See if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Making smiles great again. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Catch more money with leading economist Steve Moore.
I'm excited about America. I think things are going really well. I think we've turned a corner here. I think Biden economics is well behind us now. This is a miracle what's going on here. If anything, it's better than I thought it would be. So many good things happening in the economy. Low inflation, low unemployment rate, consumer confidence up, business confidence up. All of the indicators are pointing north right now.
It's More Money, Saturday at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
President Trump has made some pretty amazing claims since he's taken his seat as president. He's delivering on what he promised. On Inauguration Day, Trump's very first declaration was,
"The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish."
Consider this. Since the election, gold has shot up hundreds of dollars per ounce, shattering all-time record highs. Fox Valley Coins does not pretend to know the future, but they do know that if you're buying or selling gold or silver, they are the place to do it. These are some of the top reasons people choose a dealer. You want a national dealer with a local presence you can deal with face-to-face. You want a large selection, the best prices, and great service. You want to walk in with cash and walk out with the best product. You want to deal with legacy dealers with integrity. Whether buying or selling, or just one valuation, Fox Valley Coins is your answer for choosing a dealer. Visit Fox Valley Coins, 1 light north of I-88 on Route 59 at the Naperville-Warrenville border. FoxValleyCoins.com. Family-owned integrity since 1981.
Business owners, now's the time for your business to make the move to a locally owned business bank. Hi, Mike Gallagher here to let you know that you don't have to look far. Signature Bank was founded in Chicago with a simple mission to help companies like yours grow, succeed, and thrive. Their decisions are made locally by a terrific team that knows your name, cares about your business, and invests in your success. That's why Signature Bank is my bank. I'm a customer. As business owners, they knew that local family-owned businesses were not getting the help they needed or deserved. So I invite you to reach out to my friends at Signature Bank today. Write the number down. Remember this phone number, Signature Bank, 773-467-5630, and learn all about this great bank, 773-467-5630, or visit them online at signaturebank.bank. That's signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank makes commercial banking personal. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
If you want thick, healthy, gorgeous hair, then you need Hair Volume from New Nordic. Available online at Amazon and NewNordicUSA.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
In the Team Hochberg Traffic Center coming into town, Kennedy inbound between Central and Montrose, about a 10-minute delay there. Also stop and go on the Kennedy inbound between Montrose and Sacramento Avenue. No big delays on the Edens. It'll take you about an 18-minute drive inbound Lake Cook to Montrose, a 19-minute drive if you're outbound on the Edens from Montrose to Lake Cook. There is a 30-minute delay on the Ike inbound from Wolf to the old post office, planned for delays there. Also inbound in the Eisenhower between 25th and Cicero, about a 20-minute delay there. 30 minutes backed up if you're Stevenson inbound between Harlem and Western Avenue, and a 30-minute drive on the Stevenson outbound from DeSable Lakeshore to 355. And the Bishop Ford starting to stack up on the inbound lanes between 103rd and the Dan Ryan Expressway. This report sponsored by Staples. Your local Staples has hot deals and super low prices throughout the store on everything for your business. And right now at Staples, save up to $125 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends 11/1. Plus, save even more with the Easy Rewards program at Staples. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now check out the forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be very warm with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 86. Tonight stays mostly cloudy and warm with a few showers and a thunderstorm possible, especially later on. Expect a low of 66. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Some people on the left want attention. Okay. Sure. We'll talk about Napleton in a second, following up on our story about Maureen Napleton yesterday that drew a lot of attention and got people chatting. Napleton Auto Group is very well known in these parts, as people know. Very successful family that owns many, many auto dealerships. Get to them in a second. Mark Braun is the president of the Norridge Harwood Heights Library Board. He posted this. Wheeling High School on whether to honor alum Charlie Kirk is like Milwaukee doing a statue to Jeffrey Dahmer. So, that's certainly in my top 5 of the most vile, ignorant things I've heard since Charlie Kirk's assassination. How about you? Mark Braun is his name. He posted that on social media. He wants to be famous, wants attention. So let's give him some. Well, way to go, Norridge Harwood Heights Library Board, Norridge Harwood Heights voters. Where'd you get this guy? As I said earlier when we were talking about Dick Durbin, guys like this guy are all over the place in public offices. How? I'll tell you how. Because people at the local level, people in these communities aren't paying attention to what's happening at the local level. They're too busy arguing about everything that Trump says and does and what the left says and does in response to Trump in D.C. and this and that. Concerned about what Brandon Johnson says in Chicago and not concerned about what their local library board president says and does and how perhaps their local official embarrasses them in spectacular fashion. Wheeling High School and whether to honor alum Charlie Kirk is like Milwaukee doing a statue to Jeffrey Dahmer. I want to hear him lecture me in the next breath about, libraries and learning and intellectual development of our young people. This guy is obviously a shining example of the school systems. I don't know. Maybe in the Norridge Harwood Heights area. I don't know. Wherever he matriculated. Shining example, isn't it? Here's another one. In the West Cook News, Alicia Armenta is a senior channel manager with AEP Energy in Chicago. She moonlights as a stand-up comedian. She also is apparently a frequent guest on Patty Vasquez's show on Communist Radio there, WCPT, financed by Fred Eichner. Senior channel manager at AEP Energy in Chicago. I'm not trying to be mean here, but this man is horrible and, well, you live by the sword. Maybe he should have his gun to protect himself. She said of Kirk and conservatives like him, they have shown us that violence is the only way they know. Kirk lived and died by his words. It's poetic. Maybe with gun reform, we can avoid this happening to other families. My heart goes out to many other deaths caused by this administration, not his. He was a horrible person. Alicia Armenta, Senior Challenge Manager, AEP Chicago, frequent guest on Patty Vasquez's show on Communist Radio. WestCookNews.com for the story. Maureen Napleton. This is what she said, and because the Napleton Automotive Group issued a statement, I'll reread it, what she posted on social media. She wanted attention. And somebody called in that was either was with or was familiar with the Napleton Auto Group and explained to us the different family units that have different dealerships and so forth. And I said, look, I'm not trying to jam up people who work for Napleton or the family or anything like that, but somebody in a position like that who is so unstable and so reckless and so public, if she wants to make a public spectacle of herself in these times, I'll take notice. And if the Napleton Group doesn't want to, well, that's on them, but you bear the consequences of the choices you make for employees. And that's everywhere, not just the Napleton Auto Group, but that's everywhere. So, that's the standard. And particularly since she is a white chick of privilege from, well, I guess she lives in Western Springs. She's sort of a center cut. She's a great representation, a great proxy for the ruffles that are so destructive to our society. Rich, angry, white, leftist females. And I know from people who know the Napletons. I know a little bit more about her now, because I played golf yesterday with a few people who know the Napletons. Here's what she said. I would be so very happy to dance on this MFer's grave. If you don't like my opinion, that's a you problem, because I do not give a single blank. What a delicate little flower. Delightful rhetoric. Well educated. Unfollow, unfriend, be gone. This man was a monster, and I only hope Trump is next. If these ass blah, blah, blah want to live by the sword, they have to die by the sword. And if you don't get that reference, you are too uneducated to comment. The irony of her calling anyone uneducated. I get it. She went on to say, if you give a blank about guns and poor Charlie being murdered by guns, pay more attention to the children being gunned down on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. So those are the lowlights of what she posted. The Napleton Automotive Group issued the following statement. We at the Napleton Auto Group are aware of recent social media posts that have generated public concern and media attention. Despite any media coverage to the contrary, the individual responsible for these posts is not employed by nor affiliated with the Napleton Auto Group in any capacity. Really? We believe in respectful discourse, the rule of law, and the safety and dignity of every individual, regardless of viewpoint. The Napleton Auto Group remains committed to serving our communities with integrity, professionalism, and a deep respect for all people. Okay. I mean, that's a fine sentiment. But this idea that she's not employed or affiliated with the Napleton Auto Group in any capacity, she had on her LinkedIn profile that she was assistant general counsel to Napleton. That's been taken down. Gee, I wonder why. She also, I know from the people I played with that know the Napletons and know her, that she worked for them. So, I mean, I don't want to overstate the case, but the individual response for these posts is not employed by nor affiliated with the Napleton Auto Group in any capacity. Maybe now she isn't. But if there was a separation because of what she said, then that should, I mean, just in the interest of being forthright, it should sort of be disclosed. You don't, the way this is presented, despite any media to the contrary, is like the idea that she was affiliated with the Napleton Auto Group is inaccurate. And I don't think it is inaccurate. And so if you're going to issue a statement distancing yourself from what she said, which I would have highly recommended, that was the obviously right thing to do, but don't be cute about it. You know what I mean? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. I mean, that's really all I have to say about that. But since they issued a statement, I wanted to address it, particularly since they insinuated there was some sort of inaccuracy about characterizing her as legal counsel at the Napleton Auto Group, which she characterized herself as until yesterday. And which I have, other knowledge that that's the case. I don't like that. I don't like trying to be cute about it. Be direct. Hey, and have one of the patriarch come forward and say, you know what? My daughter and I don't see eye to eye, but she's still my daughter. And I love her, and she worked for the company, but I can't have that. And I know the Napletons are pretty understandably so, pretty particular about defending the brand, which any business owner is and should be. So, forthrightness is a good quality. People have understanding. People, there's a lot of people out there that have differences of opinion with their kids, or kids that have differences of opinion, political opinion with their parents. Yeah, I get it. This may be an extreme case, for goodness sakes. What is wrong with this woman? But we could understand it. Don't be cute about it. I certainly, as I said yesterday, have empathy for the rest of the people working at Napleton who are not out of their minds or mentally unstable, who don't believe anything along the lines of what she said and are negatively impacted because of what she said. That's why I'm not, running around calling for boycotts and casting a wide net here. Pete in Elburn, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, I was wondering if there's one of those correlational relationships between the hate has no home here yard signs and the people making these comments. What is it? One of those, what do you call, inverse relationships?
No, I think it's one of those things where you call a perfect circle if you're talking about a Venn diagram. Thanks for the call, Pete. Speaking of which, since we're talking about commentary along the lines, this should be noted for her permanent record, too. I'm talking about Brotherly Love Spice of the Socialist Spice Girls. That would be Ilhan Omar. She's a congresswoman from Mogadishu, Minnesota. Perhaps you've heard of it. This was at a Saturday town hall in her district, at a church, no less. Like I've been saying all week, including today, just keep talking. Keep talking, and we'll just present the contrasts and let people make their choice on whose side they want to be recorded as having stood. Take a listen to this.
I said that the people who were full of were the people who were saying that Kurt was civil. He was. Yeah. No, that's not true. The person who called for public execution of people he disagreed with is not civil. The person who said, if you are a black woman, you lack the ability to process thoughts, is not civil. The person who said, because I am Muslim, I cannot be in this country because I want to destroy Western society, is not civil. The person who said a 10-year-old should be forced to carry the child of her rapist is not civil. You interested in rewriting this hateful man's history are full of
Thank you.
If you're interested in rewriting this hateful man's history, you're full of blank. People who are honoring hateful Charlie Kirk are full of blank. It's entertaining about Ilhan Omar's customary vitriol. When you see the video and you see them pan to the attendees at this town hall at a local church in her district, a bunch of middle-aged honkies, middle-aged to senior honkies, just the worst people. These middle-aged suburban honkies that have thrown in with the most vile, vulgar, profane, ignorant illustrations or manifestations of the left in this country. And, Ilhan Omar's at the top of that list. President Trump had the occasion to comment on her at that press gag at an Air Force One coming back from merry old England.
I think she should be impeached. I think she's terrible. Is she originally from Somalia? So So how are they doing this? How's their government? Do they have a president? Do they have a council? Do they have anything? Do they have police? I love these people that come from a place with nothing, no anything, and then they tell us how to run our country. No, I think if she got censured, that's great. If she got impeached, that's even better. They impeached me twice for nothing. And they impeached me knowing the Republicans are on my side, so they knew it was just, but they impeached me. She should be impeached, and it should happen fast.
Glenn in Orlando.
Yeah, hey, good morning, Dan. The lady now that's unemployed at Napleton can look for a job at the legal department of the Archdiocese of Chicago, or better yet, if she wants to try something new, the Venezuelan drug dealers are looking for ship captains.
All right, Glenn. No. We're not calling for anybody to get taken out, but I do agree. Like perhaps join the staff of Ilhan Omar, or legal counsel to one of these Democrat Socialist House or Senate committees. Ed in Oak Brook.
Yeah, my question, Dan, when I look at the videos of these white people, it always comes to me, why are they so horrible? They're so, it's just hard to look at them. Is that something that happens when you go liberal like that? You just get ugly real quick? I'm serious.
Certainly rhetorically.
Videos of those people.
Yeah, thanks for the call. I don't know about physically, but certainly rhetorically you do.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Hello, this is Alistair Begg. In September of 2026, I'll be teaching the Bible as we cruise through the Norwegian fjords. I'd love for you to join me. Call 855-565-5519 or visit deeperfaithcruise.com.
Hi, Dan Proft here. Data shows that boys make up more than 1/3 of those exploited in the sex trade. However, there are virtually no services available to male victims and survivors of trafficking and exploitation. They are often overlooked, ignored, and left without support. For 35 years, Emmaus has been on the front lines of an issue most of us can hardly imagine, helping men and boys in Chicago escape the nightmare of human trafficking and rebuild their lives. On Friday, November 1st, you're invited to attend an unforgettable evening at the Emmaus 35th Anniversary Gala at Fisherman's Inn in Elburn, Illinois. Together, they'll celebrate faith, freedom, and restoration with a beautifully catered dinner, an inspiring program, and a silent auction, all to support the mission of rescuing and restoring survivors. This is your chance to do something that truly matters. Reserve your seat today, or if you can't attend, make a life-changing donation at streets.org. That's streets.org. Emmaus is restoring lives. Let's help them keep going. Visit streets.org.
Most investments today feel like second jobs. Real estate, you're a landlord. Stocks, you're a day trader. Crypto, you're a full-time researcher. You've got a life to live. Your investment should help you live it. That's why more Americans are choosing gold. Noble Gold has helped thousands protect their future with real physical gold. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com to get your free wealth protection kit. That's noblegoldinvestments.com.
Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at truepowergenerator.com. That's truepowergenerator.com. And right now, AM 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty with their Generac. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving MyPillow with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss and your gain. MyPillow is offering the Classic Collection for wholesale prices. Only $19.98 for a standard MyPillow. But it gets even better. For a limited time, they're going to offer the entire Classic Collection at wholesale prices. Get queen-size MyPillows for just $24.98. Upgrade to king-size for only $29.98. Get the body pillows for $39.98. And the multi-use MyPillows for only $12.98. So go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 to take advantage of wholesale pricing and receive $100 in free digital gifts when your order is $75 or more. That's right. Get the standard MyPillow for only $19.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. That number again is 800-489-0201. Promo code LIBERTY.
Want to see if you could pay less in taxes? Try the quick and easy tax calculator at willsave.com. Yes, a free tax calculator. That's WILSAVE.com. Calculate how you could keep more of your hard-earned money and give less to Uncle Sam, especially in retirement. Get your free tax analysis today at willsave.com. And don't forget to tune in to Protecting Your Assets with Steve Shyman every Saturday morning at 8, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
At AlmostFreeTeeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get a beautiful dental implant-supported smile. Check if you qualify right now at AlmostFreeTeeth.com.
Take the journey of living a happy, successful, and meaningful life through God. Listen to It's Time with Dan Lights, Sunday mornings at 9 on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life. AM 560, The
Answer. Coming up at 8:08, as if hearing from Ilhan Omar wasn't punishment enough. Sorry. Fake eyelashes Spice, Jasmine Crockett, BLM Brandon Johnson, crime and punishment. We shall pour over it with our friend Will Riley, Associate Professor at Poli-Sci, Kentucky State University. That's at 8:08. It is now 8 o'clock on AM 560, WIND, Chicago.
Saving TikTok. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. President Trump's been speaking with China's President Xi this morning about finalizing a deal for the social media company's Chinese-owned parent company to sell to American investors rather than have it banned.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said earlier this week that a framework deal to keep the social media app operational in the U.S. had been reached. Bessent says the agreement satisfies both U.S. and Chinese interests. Critics maintain any deal must ensure the app is separated from its Beijing-based parent company ByteDance to protect the country's national security.
Fox's Madeline Rivera. The manhunt for a child killer, his own children, appears to be over in Washington state.
Authorities in Washington state believe they've found the remains of Travis Decker. The Chelan County Sheriff's Office says human remains were discovered Thursday night in a remote wooded area near Leavenworth. Speaking of Fox 13 Seattle, Chelan County Sheriff Mike Morrison says police are still waiting to confirm the identity of the remains, but
we do feel pretty confident that there's a high probability this is him, just based off the clothing, some other personal items that we found on scene.
Decker's daughters, age 5, 8, and 9, were found suffocated in June. Decker had been on the run for 3 months. Ted Lindner, Fox News.
Votes expected today in the House on a Republican plan to fund the federal government until the end of October to buy more time and prevent a partial government shutdown October 1st.
Democrats have criticized the legislation because it lacks an extension of Affordable Care Act health insurance premium subsidies that are set to expire at the end of the year. Senate Majority Leader John Thune says he expects the bill to pass out of the House, and if it makes it to the Senate, Democrats will, quote, come to their senses and join us in passing it.
Fox's Ryan Schmelz in Washington. President Trump's suggestion that the U.S. retake control of Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan is rejected by the Taliban Foreign Ministry. The base was turned over to the Afghan military shortly before the Taliban took back control of the country, with American troops pulling out. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning, 71 degrees in Chicago and AM 560 The Answer. Hey, John Cruz here in the newsroom. Sunshine 85 today. Chance of rain goes up into the weekend. Operation Midway Blitz continues in the Chicago area today. ICE agents making several arrests Thursday in suburban Naperville. Witnesses say federal agents approached a group repairing roofs. Meanwhile, residents in Cicero, Wheaton, and Naperville noticed ICE arrests taking people into custody as well. A reported ICE arrest of an Elgin Community College student on Thursday, prompting a protest this morning. No one is in custody after a woman stabbed on the CTA Blue Line in West Suburban Oak Park. That crime happened early Thursday. Police say the victim got into an argument with a group of men. The dispute turned physical, and one of the men stabbed the woman with a sharp object. The woman got off the train at the Oak Park stop and was taken to a hospital in fair condition. A known Chicago gang member convicted of a murder that led to the deadly shooting of a boy 10 years ago on the city's south side, Khalil Yamin was found guilty of killing Tracy Morgan in 2015. That shooting led to retaliation 2 weeks after the crime when Morgan's brother and another man targeted and lured the young son of a rival gang member in an alley near Dawes Park. Tyshawn Lee was then shot and killed. Now, Dwight Boone Doty and Corey Morgan were sentenced in 2019 for the death of the child. The city is requesting CPD to make $98 million in cuts to battle a near $1 billion budget shortfall. Police Superintendent Larry Snelling testified before the Chicago City Council Budget Committee. He mentioned he plans to implement a hiring slowdown. Several aldermen have concerns with police overtime. CPD has already accumulated $28 million more than budgeted in overtime due to several major events. Illinois opens Big Ten play on the road tomorrow against number 17 Indiana. They are 3-0 after shutting out Western Michigan 38-0 last Saturday. The Hoosiers are also 3-0. And a French automotive supplier coming to Illinois, OP Mobility, will open their first facility in the state in Normal. The new facility will create 81 new full-time jobs. Now check out the roads coming up in 2 minutes, but now time for the AM 560 Business Beat, sponsored by Signature Bank.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report.
There were more records on Wall Street yesterday on optimism about the impact of the Fed's interest rate cut and suggestion more cuts are coming. There were record closes for the Dow, NASDAQ, S&P, and Russell 2000. It was the 26th record this year for the S&P, the 27th for the NASDAQ. Tesla shares are up 1%. Analysts at Baird and Goldman Sachs are raising expectations for the stock. Baird cites Tesla's robo-taxi service, its humanoid...
Town Hall News, where conservative voices cut through the noise from breaking headlines to fearless opinion. We report what matters without apology. Written by people who actually believe what you believe. Town Hall tells the stories the corporate press buries, from President Trump to Capitol Hill, from pivotal elections to your everyday lives. Join the movement at townhall.com. Real stories, real reporters, real conservative media.
They say timing is everything in the gold and silver markets, and it's true. Dennis Prager here for AmFed Coin and Bullion. Although you can buy at the right time, if you buy the wrong coins, you may not make a profit. When gold was $400 an ounce, many people were talked into buying high-grade old gold and silver collector's coins. Unfortunately, most of the people who bought these so-called semi-numismatic coins, like the $20 St. Gordon's and Liberty Head gold coins, have not broken even on their investment. Incredible, given that gold has risen approximately 525% since then. So while timing is everything, if you buy the wrong coins, the timing simply doesn't matter. Having a dealer who cares about positioning you in the right types of coins or bullion will mean more to your portfolio than anything else. That's why I deal with Nick Rovich and AmFed Coin and Bullion. Whether you're buying or selling, call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. Or go to AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com.
You're great at protecting your data, but lots of places could still expose you to identity theft. If that happens, LifeLock gives you the U.S.-based restoration agent who will stick by your side from start to finish. Phone calls, filing documentation, preparing insurance claims. Your agent handles it all. In fact, they're so confident restoration is guaranteed or your money back. It's nice to have an expert like that on your side. Save up to 40% off your first year with promo code Beck at LifeLock.com. That's LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. We're dedicated to serving people 50 and up, like me. Our needs are different. Big Wireless wants us in an unlimited plan, but if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used. At Consumer Cellular, we're focused on affordable, reliable plans, including data that suits your needs, not ours. Our plans start at just $20, and you'll get the best customer service in the business.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
All right, Friday Chicago rush hour. No major issues in the Edens inbound. Just a 60-minute drive from Lake Cook to Montrose. We've got some backups on the Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Byrne interchange. About a 25-minute delay. It's about a 30-minute drive in. Heading out from Kennedy on the Byrne interchange to Montrose. About a 5-minute backup there. On the Ike from Wolf to the Old Post Office. A 35-minute backup. That's a 48-minute drive inbound. Also inbound in the Ike between 25th and Cicero, adding about 20 minutes to your commute. The Stevensons inbound from 355 to DuSable Lakeshore Drive, about a 35-minute backup. It's about an hour trip in. An accident blocking the left lane if you're on the Stevenson inbound between Harlem and Pulaski Road, about a 30-minute backup there. How about the Dan Ryan looking good outbound, about a 10-minute drive from the Burn interchange to 95th. And clear, no delays, I-55 southbound from 355 to Route 47. I'm John Cruz. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now check out the forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be very warm with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 86. Tonight stays mostly cloudy and warm with a chance of a few showers and a thunderstorm, mainly later on. Expect a low of 66. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. A good riff by commentator Noah Smith about Blue Sky. For those who don't know, Blue Sky is where a bunch of cultural Marxists fled after Elon Musk bought Twitter and turned it into X. They fled to Blue Sky so they could pelt each other with repugnant rhetoric, amongst themselves, without having to deal with anyone providing pushback. Noah Smith writes, progressive culture's substitution of nastiness for persuasion and argument has robbed America of the incisive commentary of which intelligent progressives would otherwise be capable. Progressives got addicted to the power of cancel culture, their seemingly invincible H-bomb. And when it stopped working, they just didn't know what else to do because they had forgotten everything they used to do in the time before Twitter. Undoubtedly, the Blue Sky progressives think they're just socially shunning people, exercising the age-old power of social ostracism to show the door to people whose opinions are beyond the pale of polite society. But the cultural spaces that progressives still dominate are shrinking. Very few people are likely to think of Blue Sky as anything resembling quote-unquote polite society. Instead of ostracizing the people they hate, Blue Sky's progressives are only isolating themselves. The cannibalization that's happening. The cannibalization and marginalization happen simultaneously. Snake eating its own tail. The metaphor of your choosing here. I'll give you examples of what Noah Smith is talking about. I've had many this week. How about in the area of law enforcement? Yeah, that's still a thing. That defunding the police, decarcerating convicted criminals, not prosecuting to the full extent of the law violent criminals. That's very much a thing. I know we know that in Chicago, but I mean, it's bigger than that. Here was an exchange, for example, in committee between MFer Spice of the Socialist Spice Girls, that would be Rashida Tlaib, and Byron Donalds, of course, my congressman in Southwest Florida and candidate for governor to follow DeSantis. An exchange because Rashida Tlaib wanted noted for the record how beautiful D.C. is, that D.C. was being mischaracterized by the Trump administration as having a crime problem. It's all manufactured. And she wants to free D.C.
And you're not telling people the beautiful parts that you do see in our nation's capital. And no, it's just wrong how we're doing it.
Chairman, I think it's insane that the gentlelady doesn't have an argument, but she's going to refer to me and some of my colleagues. We were from the Third Reich. This is insane. You're going to look at 14, 15-year-olds as a bunch of criminals? It's insane. Do I look like a member of the Third Reich to you, Ms. Tlaib? Is that what I look like to you?
You're the one taking your voting card.
Is that what you think? Is that what you think?
Is that what you think? No, that's
I think it's radical and I think it's insane. And I'll respect everything that you say. But to say something like that to myself and a lot of my colleagues is way out of line. It's way out of line. It's way out of line.
Regular order, Mr.
Way out of line.
Regular order.
That's okay. But it's okay, right?
That is not how it
It's
goes.
okay, right?
You hold yourself accountable before you talk about
Hold
Washington,
myself
D.C.
accountable. Hold your own self accountable. How about that? Hold your own self accountable. How about that?
Free D.C. and make sure you vote with your own voting card. Don't be giving it to somebody else.
I love how after she just screeches, after she screeches and draws the draws the response from Byron Donalds about characterizing Republicans as, Nazis. What else is new? That at the end of it, she goes into chanting like she's trying to start a rally in House Committee. Free DC, free DC. That's not anywhere near the best example, though. We've had a number from Jasmine Crockett, Fake Eyelashes Spice, this week, including this instant classic from a recent podcast appearance.
I understood what was kind of pushing them there. And so I do want people to know that just because someone has committed a crime, it doesn't make them a criminal. That is completely different. Being a criminal is more so about your mindset. Committing a crime can come for a lot of different reasons.
Committing a crime is really a state of mind. It's not about actual real world behavior. So we should prosecute. I mean, it's probably what she actually believes. She's an officer of the court. She's quick to tell everyone. So we should prosecute people for what they think, because they have a mind of a criminal, but not what they do, because a criminal act doesn't make you a criminal. I mean, it axiomatically does, but she's operating on such a higher intellectual level. So committing a crime does not make you a criminal, because it's all in the mind. And BLM Brandon Johnson is having none of this business about a violent crime problem in Chicago either, just like Rashida Tlaib won't hear of it in D.C., because BLM Brandon knows what to do. He's doing it, and it's working. And he also knows what the problem is. Dare I say the sickness in Chicago is. And it's not repeat violent offenders, nor how they are dealt with by the criminal justice system. That's not the sickness.
The fact of the matter is we are driving violence down on this city, and we're using every single resource that's available to us. Jails and incarceration and law enforcement is a sickness that has not led to safe communities.
If only we would defund the police and shut down the criminal justice system, we'd have peace. Except for those people with criminal minds that have to be dealt with. And I'll leave it up to Jasmine and Brandon Johnson to figure that out. They're so far ahead of the learning curve on this one, For more on this, please be joined by Will Riley, Associate Professor of Political Science at Kentucky State University, author of Lies My Liberal Teacher Told Me, Debunking the False Narratives Defining America's School Curricula. And also, he's got a new undertaking that we'll talk about as well. He is part of a new group called Unified Solutions America, which is a consulting firm that he started with some colleagues, and we'll get into that too. Will Riley, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So the offerings on safety in America's big cities from the collection of intellects you just heard there, probably doesn't surprise you, except perhaps maybe their persistence in the face of public opinion on it.
Yeah, I think it's a surprising continuing denial of reality. And I mean, I think your commentary on Blue Sky was pretty accurate. This is something that's been true of the stuff that dominated society for the past 8 or 10 years all along, by the way. The idea that men can be women at will, so on down the line, the idea that your upper middle class black buddies are oppressed, the idea that cops don't prevent crime. These were always kind of pseudo-intellectual things that maybe 5 to 10% of people when I poll really believed, if you word the questions logically, but that people that were really dominant in kind of what you could call the discursive space, intellectuals, academics, reporters, were really prone to say, and at least pretend they believed. I mean, obviously, D.C. and Chicago have enormous crime problems. As you know, I'm from Chicago. Chicago, generally among large cities, is the most violent in the country annually. I mean, we average, 800 murders a year, and New York is at 475. So I think just flatly saying that's not true is inaccurate, but it's something we've seen for a while. Hopefully, I don't understand why Chicagoans voted for Brandon Johnson, honestly. I mean, if you look at Lori Lightfoot and, that level of radicalism and sometimes incompetence, and your decision is, well, let's make that worse. Let's go with, more of the same from the street organizer guy, you're going to kind of get what you voted for there. But, you can look around you and see in most big cities that there are pretty obvious crime problems. And you can also look, for example, at what Trump is doing with the Guard in D.C. and see that when there are armed soldiers or cops standing in the middle of busy squares, the crime problem goes away. And I think most people can work out that kind of logic 101 equation there. Let's hope that our elected officials get there.
Well, I mean, this electorate and a lot of electorates in big cities, given Zoran Mamdani's position right now as the presumptive next mayor of New York City, they're not quite getting it. And it's the same ruses that are run over and over again. I mean, I know you know this, but for example, with Chicago Public Schools, since the lack of access to quality schools is a big issue based on the test scores, I mean, everything else, the CPS, Chicago Public School System, has a budget problem, as they do every year, right? Because there's never enough money, and there never will be enough money, according to the teachers union. And so, what do? The stories out of the press corps here, like NPR, the NPR affiliate, CPS special ed staff cuts, shuffling leave students lost, behind, and unserved. So, $10.5 billion budget. And they cut special ed staff. Why do they do that? Well, it's the old Thomas Sowell formulation, which is if you're presented with a choice, we only have enough money to fund one of these two things, a statue to Benedict Arnold or children's vaccines. Which do you fund? And he said, if you're a politician, you fund the Benedict Arnold statue, which seems counterintuitive. But the point is, I'm going to fund the statue, and then I'm going to demagogue how we didn't fund childhood vaccines and how this is unconscionable. And then I'm going to get funding for both, even if it requires us to go into arrears to do it. And this is what happens in Chicago. This is the demagoguery you hear from Brandon Johnson and most other big city mayors.
Yeah, well, I think that part of the reason for this is that it's taboo to discuss the real problems. So, I mean, in terms of crime, the real problem is that a lot of groups, from hood African Americans, and I'm a black guy myself, to Portland blue hairs, have recent immigrants from the third world have insane crime rates that you don't see in much of the world. So when people say there's an incarceration issue in the United States, there's not an incarceration issue. We have a lot of people in prison because we are the biggest country that actually enforces laws. So, I mean, the problem with crime is that you have a lot of criminals. The root cause of crime is criminals. Saying things like we need to get to the true root causes like human evil, I mean, that might be interesting to talk to your priest about, but that's not going to work as social policy. I mean, in the schools, similarly, like the biggest input that causes a troubled school. And I've volunteered to teach in some of the schools down here in Appalachia, in Central Frankfurt, so on down the line. The biggest problem that causes a troubled school is the kids coming into it. I mean, are there dads in the home? Is there a background history of criminality in the family? So on. If you ignore that, if you ignore the root causes of most problems, you find yourself saying that one of a few things always has to be the issue. So for conventional leftists, I mean, one is racism, like the issue in Chicago where there's a black mayor, there's usually a black chief of police, so on down the line. The issue must somehow be like the legacy of oppression, or the suburbs are stealing money from the city. Like, I've gone to public meetings in Chicago and heard all this nonsense. With the schools, you see the other thing that sometimes is used to explain it, which is lack of money. The problem, though, is that since the 1960s, we've been spending tens of billions of dollars on all these issues, on closing racial gaps, on closing social class gaps. There's been almost no progress, by the way, since we're not addressing the real issues. When you say CPS, Chicago Public Schools, has a $10 billion budget, I live in the capital city of Kentucky. I think our city's budget is $12 billion. I mean, that's an enormous amount of money. That's what, $26,000 per student or something like that?
Yeah, close to 30 because the student population is shrinking every year. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Yeah, but anyway, that's a book costs $24.99. Like there has to be massive wastage and even theft to take in that amount of money and do nothing. And that's pretty common for big city school districts, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, so what is your posture on the Trump reaction to, express his interest in helping big cities increase the peace, reduce the body count through the expression of the National Guard, in addition to ICE operations, searching ICE resources?
I think Trump, actually, if you've read The Art of the Deal, I mean, he blusters, he says some silly stuff, but he is an excellent chess player. I mean, I think if I were a smart big city mayor, and Eric Adams has said this, I don't know whether they're supposed to be on the record, but I would take Trump up on that. I would say, yeah, we're working across the aisle to reduce crime. I mean, sending the army into the worst high crime areas of your city is obviously going to depress crime. It's one of those things where, people can posture and dance and make intellectual noises, but like any guy walking around the track with a golf club or sitting by the side of a basketball court or drinking a beer understands this is correct. There's no way that's not going to happen. If I were a big city mayor, why not, take the big guy up on it? I would just do it.
Well, from a substantive policy outcome orientation, but isn't it telling about these big city politicians that they all are openly and notoriously and very publicly rejecting the notion that the National Guard should come in, rebuffing President Trump's advances here. They don't want anything to do with it. So that has to say something about their political calculation with respect to their own party and thus their own status in these cities.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about this in my Lies book in the White Flight chapter. I mean, it's a totally amoral political calculus, obviously. I mean, if you bring in pretty high quality, since he's only launched 5 or 6 out so far, Army or National Guard units, and you put them in your city, crime's going to drop. Why wouldn't you do that? Why would you be the guy who's coming out in favor of crime? Because you've done a rational analysis, you've done some game theory with your staff, and you realize that looking like you're associated with Trump or looking like you're saying that inner city black people commit a lot of crime or something like that is going to be more damaging to you than the reality of all these people getting mugged and raped. I'm not the most spiritual guy at all. I mean, we've met, but I would personally feel there's a kind of, a noblesse oblige, there's a kind of duty as a leader to stop the people from getting mugged and raped. And if that really affects your popularity, then so be it. Your deputy can run next time. But also, the reason we have a genetic inclination to do good, to do lordly stuff like that, is that good often is its own reward. It makes you feel good, but it also gets you allies 6 months later when people realize what really happened. So I think in D.C., you talk to a black businessman in D.C. or a white one, I don't see a reason to racialize this, and ask them how their restaurant's going now that there's a soldier sitting outside it. And they'll mention that, notice there aren't homeless people using the porch as a toilet anymore. And they'll notice that there aren't guys breaking into the back door and trying to steal the pots. So whatever you might say in public, I think that guy from, Cote d'Ivoire or whatever is quite possibly going to vote Republican next time around. So I think this is something that leaders should do.
Before we let you go, tell us about your new undertaking, Unified Solutions America.
Yeah, Unified Solutions America, very accessible on the internet at unifiedsolutionsamerica.com. After the www, that's a capital USA, if it matters for you on your machine, Unified Solutions America. But this is almost an anti-DEI consulting company. I mean, this is something where I think the time has come. And I will say other people, Carol Swain and so on, have worked with similar models in the past. But this one, we're using a pretty specific methodology that was developed in large part by Brooks Crenshaw, who's a guy from the Navy SEAL teams overseas. We've got Kevin Jackson, former Fox executive, on the board. In the 30-second elevator pitch, what we want to do is come into companies, have people like James Lindsay, Local Distance, Logan Lansing, Charles Love, review their materials and see how much DEI crap got in over the past 10 years or so, hold seminars company-wide and talk to executives and talk to employees about what all this stuff that they've been doing, privilege walking and all that, where it came from, what the intellectual roots are. We want to remove it, and we want to replace it with a specific methodology that we're probably going to patent, trademark, et cetera, but that's sort of based around military HR, not the running with canoes on your shoulders executive stuff, but this is how you hire people. This is how you get a 20-point quality methodology in place. Even anti-DEI DEI might be the wrong description, although we are very anti-DEI. This would be sort of reminding people about merit. Not even so much unity, not even so much goals, but merit is the focus of your company. If you're Nike, your job is to sell shoes. It's not actually to please every stakeholder in the world and appeal to minority communities and all the other nonsense their website now says. It's to promote the new kicks. You have to go to page 4 to see the Air Jordans. That's a problem.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good example. Changing corporate culture, that's a worthwhile endeavor, and I hope it's a profitable one for you. All right, Unified Solutions America is the company, and you said UnifiedSolutionsAmerica.com.
Yeah, and it's just capital USA. It's UnifiedSolutionsAmerica.com. And if I could say one thing very briefly here. Yeah. This is actually something I've written about in my academic life. Like, there's a disconnect here between the people running a lot of these companies and their customer base, and a lot of them seem to hate their customer base. So we saw this with Cracker Barrel. I mean, they took both the Caucasian country guy and the barrel, let's say, off the logo. You saw this with Bud Light, where they were complaining their customer base is fraternity men and bikers. You sell light beer. And in every case, you can trace that back to like the Vassar-educated, C-level who came in and started running marketing. We want to kind of remove that person and their influence.
Will Riley is Associate Professor of Political Science at Kentucky State University, author of Lies My Liberal Teacher Told Me, Debunking the False Narratives Defining America's School Curricula, and again, a principal in the new consulting company, Unified Solutions America. Will, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Will Riley joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Hi, Dan Proft here. Data shows that boys make up more than 1/3 of those exploited in the sex trade. However, there are virtually no services available to male victims and survivors of trafficking and exploitation. They are often overlooked, ignored, and left without support. For 35 years, Emmaus has been on the front lines of an issue most of us can hardly imagine, helping men and boys in Chicago escape the nightmare of human trafficking and rebuild their lives. On Friday, November 1st, you're invited to attend an unforgettable evening at the Emmaus 35th Anniversary Gala at Fisherman's Inn in Elburn, Illinois. Together, they'll celebrate faith, freedom, and restoration with a beautifully catered dinner, an inspiring program, and a silent auction, all to support the mission of rescuing and restoring survivors. This is your chance to do something that truly matters. Reserve your seat today, or if you can't attend, make a life-changing donation at streets.org. That's streets.org. Emmaus is restoring lives. Let's help them keep going. Visit streets.org.
AM 560, The Answer.
Open mic! Open mic Friday! Call it now! Open mic Friday!
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Yes, that time of the week, Open Mic Friday, taking your calls, 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line and text line. We'll take your calls and texts with compliments, concerns, criticisms, general crack pottery. We'll take it all, but we begin, as we do, with turnkey.pro founder David Kolsak. David, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Dan. I'd like to take a unique perspective today on the Charlie Kirk situation. I want to be clear that I am not saying there's foul play here at all. But this morning, I want to ask some questions from a funeral director's point of view. Not many people know this, but even though I'm full-time at Turnkey, I'm also a licensed funeral director and embalmer in the state of Illinois currently. And I grew up living above a funeral home, so I have some insight. So when someone dies in this country, you have to get a doctor to sign the death certificate and declare a cause and time of death. The time of death is declared when the doctor pronounces the body dead, sometimes hours after the person died. If the person's under a doctor's care for some disease and they succumb to that disease, the doctor signs the certificate right away. If the cause of death is suspicious or unknown, an autopsy occurs. I've been to many a crime scene of suicides and murders, and it's a big deal. As a funeral director, you're not allowed to move the body until the scene is cleared for you to do so. Once the scene is cleared, the person is removed and usually transported directly to the medical examiner's office for further investigation. So from what I've seen, there was no crime scene. There was no yellow or red tape, no medical examiners. They take their time. the medical examiners, they take their time, sometimes days, sometimes weeks if toxicology is involved. In this high-profile case of Charlie Kirk, he essentially goes from the scene at 12:32 p.m. to landing in Air Force Two in a casket just before 5 p.m. the following day. That's only 28 hours, and it could be done, especially if the normal rules were allowed to be shirked. In the 28 hours or so, his body would have to be taken to the medical examiner's office, or special arrangements would have to be made to perform the autopsy at the hospital. That's usually not done, but it's not unprecedented. So his bodyguards and friends race to the hospital, where you'd suspect to see some curious onlookers recording the arrival. You'd expect to also see footage at the hospital, maybe a statement from a doctor or two, and the medical examiner even. We got none of that. And then, required by Utah law, his body would have to be embalmed to transfer his remains over state lines, or be transported in an airtight metal casket encased in strong outside shipping container. But those rules only apply to common carriers, and he was flying on Air Force Two. But all we saw was him being struck by an assassin's bullet, rushed in an SUV, and the next thing we see is a wooden casket being carried from Air Force Two. And then we see the casketed remains and the widow crying over Charlie's hands in the wooden casket. So in my opinion, since it's not a sealed container, his remains would probably embalm. Now in Utah, all counties, when deaths require investigation, they're handled by the Utah Office of the Medical Examiner, which is part of Utah's Department of Health and Human Services. That office is in Salt Lake City, which is about an hour's drive from the hospital they took him to. So the medical examiner could have also looked at that body and said the wound is obvious and waived the autopsy altogether by cause of death of gunshot wound to the neck. All of this could have been done in a high-profile case. However, I would think it's critical to know entry and exit wounds or retrieval of the ordinate in any case. Postmortem medical examinations are to provide medical legal evidence, as once the body is released to the embalmer, all of that evidence will be compromised by the embalming process. So I hope there's some ballistic investigation as to ammunition type and trajectory. They're going to have to tie this assassin to the crime, and without this information, I'm not sure they can do it, especially in light of the fact it was a single shot. Now, I want to say something about Erica Kirk's video of her crying over her husband's hands in the wooden casket. I've seen this scene live hundreds, if not thousands of times in my family's funeral home. It's always heart-wrenching to see the widow, and you're often struck by the sheer grief and sadness that goes along with a moment like that. But nobody ever records it, much less publishes it on Instagram or Facebook or New Times, I guess. Again, as a funeral director, hands are usually placed folded in a position where the wedding ring's hand is placed over the right hand. In this case, there were no rings and the hands were apart. Furthermore, the hands don't look real, are too perfect, in my opinion. There have been many people who have measured his hands using the size of the buttons visible on the suit as a measure of distance. It seems as if they're not the same size as Charlie's, but even if they are his hands, it doesn't help. The skin appears smooth, really too uniform, no veins or blemishes, nails that are perfect and waxy in appearance. So to sum it all up, in this circumstance, all of this could have been done in 28 hours, but my question is, why the rush? Everything seems so rushed. I surely hope that they performed an autopsy and have the exact details of what kind of weapon was used and how the bullet traveled and where it ended up, because there's so many things that don't add up, and the handling of his dead human remains is yet another enigma wrapped in a riddle, shrouded in secrecy, written in a fortune cookie. So everyone wants the truth. Something's off here, and I'm not the only one who thinks so. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, David. I guess. Well, let me just predict this without going into any of that. This will be a quick jury decision if there is not some sort of plea agreement to spare the assassin the death penalty. This is the evidence just presented in the public domain is compelling to the point of being overwhelming. There's lots of people who think all sorts of things. But, me personally, I wouldn't spend a lot of my time worrying about the authorities putting together the specific timeline, which they're doing, and combined with the prosecutors putting together an airtight case that just on the charging document. You want to talk about motive, means, and opportunity? The combination of the physical evidence in his own words. You're worried about this guy, number one, being whoever is worried about this, worried about this guy being the responsible party, and worrying about this guy being convicted. Stop worrying. John in Arlington Heights, you're in Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hi, good morning. I was attended the actually last night's meeting at the 214 school board and the one that they had last week as well, with regard to getting Charlie Kirk named as a distinguished alumni in the 214 school district. And I just kind of maybe wanted to make everyone aware that there's a petition available online, change.org. that can sign, and I hope that the school board takes it seriously about getting him reinstated. At one time, it's clear that they had his picture up, and this was about 5 years, and then 5 years ago in 2020, it was taken down. And I think that Charlie's the native son of that township. He was born, raised, and educated there. And I can't understand with all the notoriety, all the prayers that billions of prayers were said for him, thousands of signatures. He by definition is a distinguished alumni who's achieved his career goals. And when you compare it to other people that the board has previously and currently recognizes, he's just an outstanding individual. I just really cannot fathom why this is just such a controversy when it's so self-apparent.
Thanks for the call, John. District 214 Superintendent Scott Rowe issued the following statement on that score. We're aware of the 2 change.org petitions related to Charlie Kirk's passing and actions District 214 should or should not take. The district is in the process of updating its processes to apply for and assess the Distinguished Alumni Awards and has existing policies that detail how students can start new non-school sponsored co-curricular activities. We will follow those processes with these requests. While we continue to extend our deepest condolences to Charlie Kirk's family and friends for this terrible and senseless loss, we will not hold a district-wide memorial as that would disrupt the learning environment at our schools. Instead, we encourage students, faculty, staff, and families to mourn and remember Charlie Kirk together at one of the many public services and vigils that are being organized throughout the community. Trying to walk the line is what the superintendent and the school board are doing, because you have parents showing up to meetings like Faye Costa did, saying, I cannot support my daughter's school system honoring a man who spread such regressive, sexist, and harmful message. My daughter's education is not up for debate. Faye Costa is, a mom who showed up to the school board meeting, and that's what she said. And this is why there are 2 petitions, one saying honor him and one saying don't, and divided opinion. And given what's happened to the suburbs, the District 214 suburbs, what do you think the political disposition is of those suburbs? Why don't you take a look at the elected officials and see if you can divine it? So where Charlie Kirk grew up is not the same place it was when he was coming of age. And this is why you have acrimony, where I agree there shouldn't be any. Dawn, Naperville.
Hi, good morning, everyone. The foolishness of this world judges on the outside, but the Lord looks at your heart. And Jesus said that out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if you have bitterness, you're going to produce anger. If you have God's wisdom, which is the word of God, it's going to produce joy. And, with all due respect, kids, the youth, they watch what you do. They watch who you are at home. And if we really want to go deep, they want to know who you are when no one is watching. So Charlie Kirk exemplified all 4 of these qualities: wisdom, joy, integrity, and leadership. So the world and its foolishness, it produces anxiety. And the kids see it, don't they? Don't they see that that's what this world is producing? So Charlie showed up when many, especially in the church, are just, they don't have the courage to do it. And he showed that God's love produces clarity. And most importantly, it's going to give you a calling on your life. So that's all I wanted to say. Just thank you to Charlie Kirk's wife. And let's pray for her and wrap our arms around her in love and her children. That's the saddest part of all of this, is the children that are going to grow up without a father. Thank you.
Thanks for the call, Dawn. And, of course, Erica Kirk has taken over the helm of Turning Point USA. A statement was issued yesterday on that, so she's going to carry on her late husband's work. Annie and Addison.
Hi, Dan. I just wanted to say thank you very much for giving the information about where the Charlie Kirk Memorial is in Arlington Heights. It was overwhelming. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of flowers in dozens of different places. It was very, very meaningful, and I think everyone should go to see it.
Great.
Thank you very much for giving us. I didn't know exactly which, but it's Evergreen in Arlington Heights. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, 307 Evergreen in Arlington Heights, I think was the address. Going from memory there, but I think that's right. Bob and Waukegan.
Yeah, Martin Luther King in an interview said, "Nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." And I put sincere in quotes. When you watch television, you need to remember the phrase, "a text without a context is a pretext," because that's what leftists do. If a leftist ever gives you an illustration in a diatribe, ask them to show you the unedited clip, like in Biden's Fine People lie. As you pointed out with Jamal Hill a couple days ago, she was calling Charlie a racist because he didn't want to fly with a black pilot who was underqualified, and he stated that Kamala Harris was a DEI pick, and so was Ketanji Brown Jackson. Ignorant, arrogant people who believe they aren't ignorant, arrogant people are the most dangerous citizens in America. Charlie Kirk said in his that dialogue can resolve fallacies and malice, but you can't reason with an unreasonable person who refuses to listen, as in the universities where they have the heckler's veto and disinvitations. At Utah Valley University, 947, I believe, professors and students signed a petition so that he could not even speak. We need to have a conversation coming out of the pie holes of leftist liberal progressives is the biggest pile of poop emojis you're ever going to imagine. Imagine a world where leftists pull their heads out of their dank remote recesses and breathe clean, fresh, wonderful air, hugely endorsed by President Donald J. Trump. Thank you.
Thanks for the call, Bob. Ron and Sycamore.
Hi, Dan. I want to let you and your audience know that I reapplied to be a CPS vendor after a 5-year absence. And the first high school that I will be teaching my Money 101 financial literacy course will be Douglas High School with a population of about 35 students. And I am going to go into that school and teach those students how to get out of that situation that they're in.
That's great, Ron. Thank you for that. I mean, but also what a commentary. Douglas, a high school that has 35 students. I remember Douglas High School on the rundown, and obviously it has capacity for exponentially more, but that's what it's down to. 35 students in a high school. But, maintain the Potemkin village that is the Chicago public school system's infrastructure, because you have to maintain all of those jobs for the adults in the system, which is mainly what that system is about, isn't it? The other Ron, Southside.
Yeah, that's a good thing for Ron. But to hear Brandon Johnson, Dan, say that law enforcement is a sickness, this idiot has lost his mind completely. But like you just said, and anyone that had voted for him, that's something what they're thinking. But on a lighter note, I got to throw in Robert Redford's favorite movie of mine, following back up on the other day, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. Favorite line, Dan, when Butch says they were about to be captured, he said, there's something I ought to tell you. I've never shot anyone. And Sundance, Robert Redford said, hell of a time to tell me. Have a good weekend, Dan.
Thanks, Ron. And Butch Cassidy is good. It's not The Natural, though. The natural still has to take top honors. Rick Desplaines.
Good morning, Dan. I was just wondering if you'd heard about the picture of J.B. Pritzker with a group of those crime interrupters.
Yeah.
Earlier this month. And then, the one guy was part of that smash and grab ring.
Yeah, the Louis Vuitton smash and grab, and then in the getaway, they killed a guy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Rick. Yeah, they killed a guy. We mentioned this earlier in the week after it was reported. Killed a guy who was on his last shift at Northwestern Hospital before he was going on paternity leave, if I'm remembering correctly. I mean, so it's just another sad story of a preventable crime. Yeah, and one of the handful of guys was a quote unquote peacekeeper. So, as we've had to say before, actually, not the first time, who protects the city from the peacekeepers? Not all of these youth intervention programs and groups are created equal. Don't tell that to the power structure, though. Don't tell that to BLM Brandon. He's too busy dealing with the sickness that is law enforcement and the prison system. Will and Skokie.
Hey, how you doing? The other day, they had the 5 police officers shot, I believe 3 killed up in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
They were serving a warrant. I found it interesting. They had a press conference with Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, and other people, and they were explaining everything. It was covered by Fox, of course. To their credit, it was also covered, and they broadcast it live on CNN. When I turned to MSNBC, they had some female university professor who was discussing First Amendments and how Trump was an enemy of the First Amendment and all the things he's doing. So it just goes to show you the balance, so to speak, that we have in especially cable news. So anyway.
Thanks for the call, Will. Appreciate it. Yeah, 5 officers shot, 3 murdered in Pennsylvania. Nice timing for Brandon Johnson to call law enforcement a sickness. His timing is always impeccable. Lou in Western Pennsylvania.
Hey, Dan. 8-year listener, first-time caller. I've always wanted to say that.
Oh, great.
Okay. I have 2 questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
When you run into, like, the mayor of Chicago or your state governor, what do you say to each other?
You know what? I've never met either Brandon Johnson or J.B. Pritzker, although I've invited them to come on the show. They have an open invitation. They've had an open invitation since they were candidates, but neither one of them has the political courage or intellectual chops to do that, so they don't. But I've never met them personally. I don't think I've ever even been, in their presence where I would have had the opportunity to introduce myself. But I'd certainly happily do it. I mean, with respect to Pritzker, since he spent the 2022 election cycle calling me a right-wing operative from Florida, I just introduced myself that way. And for BLM Brandon, I'd just introduce myself as, some suburban honky that, you'd need to pay no attention to. But anyway, okay, so that's question 1.
Okay, and with regard these indictments, do you think we'll actually see like a Brennan, a Clapper, a Clinton, and Obama actually indicted, or at least hear about an attempt that we indict them, but we just don't have the evidence? Or is this whole thing going to just be like a dream that I wish would come true?
Well, thanks for the call, Lou. I mean, we know Comey and Clapper are under investigation, and I assume there are more individuals than just those 2 that have profile in all of the lawfare and illicit activity that was conducted by FBI, DNI, CIA, DOJ over the last decade. So at least I suspect we're going to get an accounting of what the investigation produced. I hope it's not handled like the Epstein files, where you just issue a statement. We don't have anything. Move on. That's going to be, that's not going to fly. I hope they learned their lesson, that a detailed explanation of their decision either way on these individuals will be required. So I know we'll get that. What they can actually put together with the constraints of corroborating testimony and evidence, with the restraints of statutes of limitations, I don't know. I want to be optimistic, but I probably am leaning towards skeptical that there'll ever be a reckoning at that level, at the principal level that you were describing. John in Bridgeport.
Morning, Dan. To your list of inviting Brandon and Pritzker on, can you do me a favor and invite Cardinal Supich on?
He's been invited. He's been invited.
And he's never talked?
Nope.
All right, because this past weekend and the weekend before, I YouTubed. I looked at other masses around the city. I don't know if he gave the orders, but nothing was mentioned regarding the Charlie Kirk murder or what happened in Minnesota with those kids being gunned down in church. So I'll give him another opportunity, the parish priest this weekend, to see if anyone's going to mention it. But I don't understand why. Is it because they're compromised with the Democrats and they don't want to look bad? Is it that they don't want to answer the transgender issue or then talk about it for fear of alienating someone? It really bugs the piss out of me. But yet they want me to pay, $14,000-15,000 a year to send a kid to high school. Speak up here, Supich, will you? That's all, Dan. Sorry to bug you.
No, that's great. Thanks, John. I'm glad you went on the record on that one. The priests and bishops and cardinals need to hear from the faithful. Absolutely. Rick in Downers Grove.
Hey, good morning. Hey, this is in regards to the Dick Durbin Catholic Church incident where he's going to get this award. I would love to hear the verbal gymnastics they're going to have to go through to make this turd look like a compassionate, intelligent individual. They're going to have to straight up lie. And if I'm not mistaken, I think lying is one of the 10 commandments. So, I would love to hear how they're going to introduce this guy.
I don't know if I'd love to hear it enough to go to the banquet on November 3rd. I think it was Lifetime Achievement Award from the Archdiocese's Office of Human Dignity. Stunning. But that's where Supich is. That's where the Arch is. Which is why I say be good for Catholics to communicate up through their parishes to the home office here in Chicagoland. Kevin, Austin, Texas.
Dan, thanks for having me on. Two things. First is I got a buddy, he owns a gym down there in Austin, Texas. He was a Democrat from Maine, couldn't stand Trump the first term. Second term after Biden, he's like, I can't stand this. Became an independent, voted for Trump. And he said I could never be a Republican. But because of the backlash of the left on this, he's like, Kev, I could be a Republican now. So, and he's a friend who he knew thought he was still a liberal and all that. Texted him, what do you think of this? He goes, I think I don't want you to come back to my gym anymore. I think the shift has really changed. And then the second thing is, or shift has really happened as far as people who are independent. Second thing is, I think it's the Arlington, Virginia, or Richmond, Virginia, the diocese there had a very eloquent response to all how society's fallen apart. He cited the murder in Charlotte, and then also the Charlie Kirk thing. So I think there are bishops out there who understand this, but there are a lot that are just too afraid because of their donors, essentially.
Thanks for the call, Kevin. I don't know if they're afraid. I don't know if the bishops are afraid because of their donors. I think it's more that they've come up in a tradition of liberation theology / social justice, sort of cafeteria Catholicism, and that's what they practice. Maybe a reflection of some of their parishes too, in more leftist areas, wealthy leftist areas. So I guess some of that, by extension, is donors, but I don't think that's primarily the issue. Barb in Northwest Indiana.
Hi, Dan. Thanks for taking my call. I'm just referencing a good homily that John could listen to on YouTube from Northwest Indiana, St. John the Evangelist. Father Sammy Muletta last weekend had a great homily involving Charlie Kirk and the crucifixion and how important it is that we all get together.
Thank you.
So I think he should listen to that.
Okay. Thank you, Barb. Appreciate that. Greg in LaGrange.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Good.
On the
on the Supich vein, Archdiocese vein, it is absolutely stunning at the silence about the Charlotte incident and Charlie Kirk. And the thing that I just get to is that you have to communicate this through your pastors, and you have to communicate this through your bishops. Now, the Archdiocese, if you may know, is trying to push through a big campaign called Generations to Generations. You just can't allow them, the Archdiocese, to continue to be silent on some of these issues that are so important to many of us, and then contribute money and see it go nowhere. We did nothing during the COVID thing. Nothing. We didn't build out our schools. We didn't take advantage of the situation. We didn't have more kids join. We're going through some ridiculous merger process where it's not even cost effective to keep some of these churches that merge together open anymore because of the money drain. And then it's all politics. We know that, Dan. We know that. They don't want to go against the state. And it's just really tiring. As a Catholic, I'm very exhausted with it. I'm looking forward to moving to an archdiocese that represents my values.
Thanks, Greg. Bill in Grace Lake.
Hey, guys, love the show. Seems that I always call in when I'm headed to Blue Mound, America's Guest.
Oh,
again.
very good. Congratulations.
I know. I wanted to lighten things up. I just needed to give Charlie Kirk a little credit. I'm a little bit older. I'm 44. I got a couple kids. And I started listening to him a while ago, probably 5 years. And if it wasn't for his dialogue and his preaching, I don't think I would have been on the faith journey that I'm on now. And I just needed to give him credit. And I hope that through all of this, there's 1,000 Charlie Kirks or people like him that come out and talk the gospel and create positivity and some understanding and get the conversation going. I think at the end of the day, we just need to talk. And I appreciate you guys letting me come on.
All right, very good, Bill. Fairways and greens out there at Blue Mound. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. All right, well, that is a wrap for a challenging week, but appreciate everybody's contributions to Open Mic Friday and all week. I think we've had some very good conversations on the full range of topics that we've tackled, and wish everybody the best for a pleasant and safe holiday weekend. Wish it was a holiday weekend. It's a pleasant and safe weekend. It is now 9 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
Closing a TikTok deal. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. President Trump and China's President Xi have been speaking today about an agreement for the social media app to be separated from its Chinese-owned parent company in the U.S. to avoid a ban mandated by Congress. The deadline has been extended by the president 4 times now.
Chinese officials indicated this week that a potential deal could include the U.S. leasing out the algorithm in a TikTok spinoff. If that's the case, some lawmakers fear that national security threats are just going to remain. The president hasn't revealed where that stands in the current framework.
Fox's Alexandria Hoff. Debates happening now ahead of a House vote planned today on a Republican plan to extend federal funding 7 weeks to avoid a partial government shutdown at the end of this.